And the 2018 World Chess Championship all comes down to this. Game 12 will be the final game of the classical chess portion. Win, lose, or draw, we will either have a new world champion after today or be headed to an exciting round of tiebreaks. Alongside me, Grandmaster Robert Hess. And Robert, as appropriate as possible, we have a great daily question today allowing everyone to kind of review their feelings about this match, but not just this match, all World Chess Championship matches. You and I have had a ton of fun this morning, and we've had a ton of time on our hands, let's be honest, in the rest day, kind of reviewing this question, and we've got some fun stuff to look at, but I want to invite all of you to get involved with the question. Use the hashtag ChessTV, and let us know your thoughts. There's a great Wikipedia page that lists all World Chess Championships in history if you need a refresher. But let us know your feelings as we dive into Game 12 here. Before we review a couple examples, Robert, where we've actually had decisive chess in the final game of a World Chess Championship, let's just do a small prediction for what you expect today here in Game 12 with Caruana having the white pieces. What opening do we think we're going to get?
Honestly, I don't even know what to expect because I think that Fabiano is going to try to press because he doesn't want to go to the rapids, and I don't think he'll take too many risks, but he needs to do something that gives him some sort of advantage. And, it's funny that this scene is up here with the analysis board because when you ask about favorite World Chess Championship matches, one of my favorites is involved this game here, and I wonder, I'm gonna let the fans, the viewers, see if they know what it's from.
Let's see who first recognizes what this is.
Let's see. I'm gonna keep looking here. If anyone recognizes where this game is from, and nobody yet.
Nobody does. So the main reason we're showing you a couple of games here is there's been a lot of questions and worry about whether we would see 12 draws, which we might, and we might be headed to tiebreak with 12 draws, but there's a very good chance that today's final classical game is a decisive one, and perhaps
we got one.
There we go. Perhaps no game is more what is it? No game is more epic or tragic, I guess, if you're in Chigorin's shoes, than this game right here, where Chigorin is playing the white pieces against the current reigning world champion, Wilhelm Steinitz, and Chigorin is up a piece and moments away from what seems to be winning the World Chess Championship and becoming the next World Chess Champion. But what did Chigorin play here with the white pieces?
The worst move, perhaps in chess history, bishop b4. And, well, that bishop on d6 was guarding h2, so after rook takes h2 check, Chigorin resigned and also resigned his chance at winning the World Chess Championship because rook d to g2 would have been checkmate. And so up a piece in the position, had the World Championship on the line, and lost it to Wilhelm Steinitz.
So I don't know that we'll see a blunder of that level today, but there's an example where the final game literally helped the world champion defend his title. The other one we wanted to show is actually from much more recent history. Let's see who recognizes this one in the chat. This is fun. I like letting them guess, and we've got some pre-match game time here. So what game is this? Who can name both the players here? And this is perhaps the most recent example, Robert, where the final game in the classical portion decided the match.
Right, because someone said Karyak and Carlsen.
There we go. We got one.
There it is.
We got one. Someone just screamed Vichy.
96. Vichy. Someone says Topalov. So Sandhop.
That's right.
They got the two players. Yes, this is Vichy Anand and Veselin Topalov, and that was amazing.
It was an amazing match because Topalov had the white pieces, and you would expect if anybody was going to get a win, right, in the final classical game, it might be the person with the white pieces like Fabiano today. But hey, don't be surprised if one side pushes too hard to win and then ultimately loses it. In this position, Vichy had just defended off an epic attack against his own king before turning the tables, which started with rook takes g3 and then queen g4 check. And suddenly, here comes black on the grind with a mating net against the white king. After the move king h2 and rook e2, this game was basically over. White is forced to sacrifice his own queen on g2. Otherwise, we have Chekalina Lashlamba there on h3. So Topalov gave up his queen, and the rest was really a matter of technique and a matter of formalities. Topalov playing it out a few more moves before ultimately resigning to the reigning world champion. That person was Vichy Anand, who defended his title in this game. He wins the b2 pawn, comes back to guard the king, and white throws in the towel. So if you're thinking today is not going to be an exciting day, boy, might you be wrong.
Yep.
And back to the question we had before we went into that kind of exciting recap of one of the earliest examples ever of a world championship being blown in a single game, to a much more recent, probably the most recent. I don't think that either the Carlsen Anand match ended in a decisive game, right?
Nope,
The match ended in a draw because
sorry.
Carlsen already had a lead.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, he actually won one of the last games, but he was already up 2 games in the match, and I think he won
Right.
+3 in one of those matches.
So as we take a quick look at everything we've seen so far in the first stage of things, you can see the openings that have been played throughout this match right there beneath me. And Robert, let me go back to the question I asked before we jumped into those historical reference relating to our daily question. What opening do you expect to see today? We have the challenger back with the white pieces. We've seen him stick to his guns. It's been all Sicilian all day. Are you expecting that again, or maybe time at the last moment to switch it up and look for something new?
Well, I'm looking at Game 1, Game 3, Game 5, Game 8, and Game 10, because those are the 5 games where Fabiano had the white pieces, and those were all Sicilian, stemming from 2 knight c6 in that line. So,
right.
If I'm basing purely off the history of this match, I would say Magnus is comfortable in the Sicilian. He has not lost a single game there. In fact, he's gotten some very good positions, playable positions, even for a win on the black side of the Sicilian. So maybe he'll continue there. On the other hand, Magnus traditionally in World Championships has been an e5 player.
Yes.
Against Vichy, against Karyakin, he's played e5. So clearly he saw something in Sicilian that he wanted to use against Caruana.
Yep.
Now, I've been involved in Twitter, and people have been telling me, Robert, he should play e5 because it's safer. And I think there's this misconception that it's intrinsically safer to play a symmetrical position, e4, e5.
Right, rather than a Sicilian, for example.
Exactly. Right. But try playing the black side of e4, e5 against Vichy Anand or Fabiano Caruana.
No,
you know very quickly it's
right.
not safe. It may
right.
be symmetrical, there may not be mating tactics, but you get in those positions where white is slightly better and keeps pressing with no risk, and then you suffer, and you get squeezed,
right.
and then you lose. So I think that Magnus will go for the Sicilian once more.
If Fabiano plays e4.
Exactly.
Right? You mentioned in the pregame you had this feeling this morning maybe you'll see a d4 by Fabiano for 2 reasons Robert gave. One, try something new besides the Sicilian. Maybe see if you could get a better position than you've been getting. Secondly, if it does end up in a draw, perhaps you've done a little bit of probing yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you look at the difference in openings here, everyone, notice that Magnus has played something different every game as white, or he's had this pattern of d4, c4, e4, right?
Yeah.
Fabiano has done very little probing to figure out what else might be lurking in Magnus Carlsen's preparation with his team of seconds. So I think that was an excellent point by you, that if Fabiano plays d4, it might both be to try to get something new here today, but also to perhaps probe and set things up for the tiebreaker. But you mentioned Magnus's history as a world champion, so let's bring that up and remind everybody what his match history has been. Obviously, this is his 4th world championship match, if you include that he won one and then defended the title twice. And so, for those of you who maybe forgot, Magnus Carlsen became a world champion as a young pup in 2013. He defended it against Anand, and then defended it in New York in tiebreak fashion. And that's probably the most relevant thing to mention today, is that if indeed we do have a draw, we will be headed to tiebreaks, where Magnus Carlsen has, as you said, not only did he win that tiebreak match, but who brought us the stat that Magnus hasn't lost a single tiebreaker? Was it Tarjei Svensson?
It's Tarjei Svensson.
Magnus hasn't lost a tiebreaker of any kind in any event in
like 12 years.
In a long time, right? Longer than my oldest son has been alive. So that's.
Yeah, you don't remember what it's like.
I don't remember what it's like. Yeah. So that's a great point, and obviously that's something we'll be mentioning throughout the day. Is if we do get tiebreakers. At this point, I feel like we win today no matter what. Even though there's been a lot of talk about all the draws, the truth is there's been a lot of amazing chess in this match. There's been several games where, frankly, somebody should have won. I mean, Magnus is really probably kicking himself about Game 1 at this point, right?
And the question really to me is, do the people want the tiebreaks? And you had a Twitter poll.
I had a Twitter poll about that. It's a great question. In fact, let's get back into the world of social media, because yesterday morning, bright and early, it was Sunday morning, but I couldn't sleep. I posted a poll at about 6:30 a.m. on Sunday and said, hey, at this point, what do you want? Do you even want somebody to win, or do you want tiebreaks? I'm a little surprised by the results. I was kind of alluding that maybe we do want tiebreaks, but the fans went against me, and it seemed that the majority of them are interested in a decisive game today, with Magnus winning. Those rooting for a Magnus win about equal with the tiebreaks, right?
Yeah.
Then we had a great response, and I wanted to show this tweet because I think that one of the questions that'll relate back to our daily question as far as, where does this match rank? He says he also wanted a decisive game despite how exciting tiebreaks may be. and he asked a question that I wanted to bring up. Is it fair to say that because the games have been such high quality, Robert, in this match, but that means a lot of draws, that maybe the game of chess is not dying and it's immortal and as enjoyable as ever, but the sport itself, because we do want, what does sporting say? We want a winner, right? Maybe the sport itself is dying. I would not say dead, but what are your thoughts on this tweet?
It's very interesting because in very few sports, whether chess is a sport now is a different argument, but the fact of the matter is most sports do not end in ties. We have football, like soccer for Americans, that can end in a tie, but most matches do not end in a tie. So, if, for example, the top teams in the Premier League play, or Spain is versus England or whoever the teams are, most of the time they will not tie. They'll be 1-0 and they'll switch off results if they're about equal strength. But in chess, the draw is the most likely outcome, and there's full information
at the highest
in front
level
of you,
for
right?
sure, yeah.
Everything's in front of you. Everything is sort of quote-unquote expected because all the pieces are there, and nothing is a total surprise. There's no surprise that you can pull in a magic piece, and all of a sudden the game changes. So I think that, that I wouldn't say as a sport is dead. People are not accustomed to accepting the fact that a tie works.
Is a possible result.
If you think about hockey used to have ties, and then they went into overtime losses, where you still get credit for going to overtime even if you lose.
Right.
So people just don't like the fact that individual games can be tied. So, for example, the World Cup final. Imagine if the World Cup final was, we tied that game, so then we'll have to play a whole nother game. No.
Right.
The regulation is tied, then we go into extra time, that's still tied, then we go into penalty kick shootout, and so the game itself is not a tie, even though the classical game is a tie, right? Because penalty kicks is just like a tiebreaker.
Right. No, it's a great point. I think that that's one of the things that first surprises people about chess that you have. In fact, you and I have had a lot of conversations with people casually asking us, hey, what are you doing as you talk about a game, and how can somebody win a match at 6.5 points out of best of 12? I'm like, remember, you can have a half a point in chess, right? And so, I think as the game is played at the highest level and you expect a peaceful result at times when both players are playing their best, you have to take it with the excitement of the fact that, hey, if we have a decisive game today and this match is remembered as one that came down to one single game, the storyline changes, right? It's a question that I think we'll be diving into over the coming months because it's an interesting topic. We asked this question today: which match is the greatest match ever, or where do you rank the Carlsen-Caruana match? Maybe that's something we'll actually dive into with our own Caps research. Why don't we find out which match was maybe the highest quality ever? So, all right. Well, we have liftoff and we have a Sveshnikov. So no variety coming here from Team Caruana, or they still strongly believe that this is their best chance for an advantage, since Magnus has said, I'm not going to change the Sicilian either. You were right that if e4 was played, a Sicilian would be Magnus's choice, not e5. Let's see if Fabiano surprises us right now by not going in for this 7 knight d5 line. We're moments away from finding out, right?
Yeah, and Ben Johnson, who has a great Perpetual Chess podcast, he does a great job bringing different people onto the world stage for that audience. He actually said that e5 would be played, so I'm expecting an apology from him at some point. No, I'm just kidding, Ben. That was a good argument. But here we have the same exact position that we've seen multiple times.
But I think you made a great point. Not to add more onto Ben's point, but it's interesting food for thought right now. We've already seen this position a few times, so we can talk a little bit about these other storylines. Ben said he feels like e5 was safer, and you disagreed with that, and I agreed with you, right? I mean, it's why you played the French against Vichy at the Isle of Man, because when playing the black side of a Spanish where the prep is even deeper may not be something that Magnus wants for good reason, right? Especially the other practical point of view is Fabiano still hasn't proven a win here yet, right? Yeah, he had a big advantage in game 8, but then he didn't even go back to his own line, which means clearly these guys are operating at a higher level than us. They already knew that even that line doesn't offer white anything.
That's a really great point. The fact of the matter is he got a great position. Some people say, well, why wouldn't you keep doing that? That was such a good demonstration by you.
Right.
But when you have computer preparation, when you have time, your team of seconds look at it, they say, well, there's really not much for white here. So that was a one-off opening choice. That's what Hikaru Nakamura said when we had him on for that game. He said, brilliant choice by Caruana. He really praised him.
At that time. And we were expecting a victory at that time.
And he was like, for that one game, great choice, but dispose of it. One-time use and gone. And now he's recycling it, right? He's doing it again and again. And Magnus actually...
Okay, we have something different.
Yeah, first Fabiano plays c4, which we've talked about as being sort of the move, the typical move in this line, to play c4. And it goes in line with everything we've said about the previous games. Once you go c4, you're closer to potentially playing c5 later, using your 4-on-3 majority on the queen side.
Right.
And Magnus quickly pops that over to g6, which opens up that bishop on f8 for development.
Right.
So
Now, and let's highlight that because you and I have now had this position twice, and for those of you who followed all of our matches, you know that every time we've gotten this position and Fabiano has played a4, we've mentioned that c4 is the most popular theoretical
was
move.
the knight on e7 in those lines, or was it b8 into d7?
Oh, you're
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That's right. So Magnus is actually the one who changed the direction first.
Right, because all those games the knight was going hop into b8.
That's right. That's right. We were so focused on c4 being the difference that we forgot that, yes, in fact, it was Magnus who has varied here first, everyone. Knight to b8 has been the move that we've seen in both games 8 and games 10.
Yep.
Magnus saying, I'm not interested in going back into it. Maybe now he actually does buy that Fabiano's team has had a little too much time to try to bust my variation here, and I don't want to allow them a single more game. So I'm going to go into a different maneuver, and Fabiano plays the move c4, creating the retreat for the knight that naturally comes behind this pawn. And again, we've said this is the more strategically common approach to a4. And in this particular line, it's actually the much more common move, knight e7, knight g6. So maybe we can do a little research and figure out.
Yeah, we'll get our team on it. But it's also
Queen
important to
A4.
note that knight g6 is very important, because if you make a different move besides knight g6, so let's say you play h6, then you lose immediately to queen a4.
Right, and the reason, should we let everyone solve it?
Yeah, give him a sec.
Bishop d7, and it's on you, Twitch. Twitch and Chess TV, our first open call out to all of you in the match. We love you no matter where you're tuning in from. We have about 18,000 of you with us already. Very exciting. And I'm waiting for the there you go, yeah. Knight takes d6 is smothered checkmate. There you go. Someone said kd6 in the Chess TV chat, but we use n for knight in chess. Don't ask me why. Anyway, so that's exactly a very, very clear threat, which is why the move knight g6 is played. The reason it doesn't win is because now the bishop guards the d6 pawn. But note Fabiano playing queen a4 anyway.
Yep.
And after the move bishop d7, queen to b4, bishop f5. Both players seem very prepared today, Robert. I'm getting chills.
Yeah.
I'm getting tingles, and I like to use spirit fingers when I get the tingles.
And the reason why I'm actually very excited about this particular line is when there's knight on g6 and you're in a Sicilian, often you want to play h4 as white, right, to try to kick that knight away. So you try to play h4 and h5. But by playing h4, you compromise your own kingside, right? Because that's a pawn that's not moving backward, which means you're not castling kingside anytime soon, which means that where's your king going? Right, because the king is not going queenside with your pawn on c4 and that bishop on f5. So a move like h4 is very committal. Now,
which means we're going to get double-edged chess for both sides.
For sure. And a move like g3 also is a problem, because then bishop e4 happens, and now your rook on h1 is under attack.
You're losing the right to castle.
Yeah, that's not a good deal for white there. So, I mean, this is a big moment for Fabiano, because clearly Magnus prepped this. He's in exactly what he looked into.
He wouldn't be playing this fast if he didn't.
And Fabiano, if he starts thinking here, it means that he's looked at this in the past, but he wasn't expecting it in this particular game.
Right.
And that's a big psychological advantage for Magnus. That leads me to think, well, is Fabiano going to take the risks that we might see in a position like with the move h4?
Right.
Or is he, this is not going to happen. But Fabiano can just go queen a4 back and say you have to go bishop d7. Because let's show why queen d7 doesn't work.
Yeah, let's do that. Queen d7. Maybe we'll let Twitch do for 1,
let Twitch do it for us.
3. Well, there's a little bit of a lag, so we've given them enough time that some of them will say it in chat before we get to show.
Yeah.
Now you take advantage of the pin in another way, right? Previously you were mating black. Here it's not checkmate, but still good enough for a Puzzle Rush mention. First Puzzle Rush mention less than 10 minutes in. Hashtag you're welcome.
Boom.
That's right. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're not going to see a repetition here, but I hope we see h4, because it is the most challenging way to deal with the threats here. And one thing to note is that this pawn, while it is available because the queen guards the knight, there's a number of things white can do against that, including just immediately capture the knight and then go back to this fork we were just pointing out. So h4 is not a move that is met by taking with the knight, which is why it's such a principled thing to do, to try to dislodge this knight. And again, as Robert said, this is the most, or not say this is one of the most principled moves, but it's also one of the most double-edged moves.
Yes.
And if Fabiano is nervous about what Magnus has prepared, if indeed Robert's sort of implication that Fabiano thinking suggests that, then maybe we won't see this move. But let's see, maybe Fabiano also taking his time right now to dive into that.
This sort of reminds me thus far of Game 2. Now, completely different games, But Magnus was white in game 2. He played an opening that should give white a slight plus. Then Fabiano plays an offbeat line that he wasn't expecting, and Magnus said in the press conference afterwards, I'm not just playing against Fabiano at the board, I'm playing against his preparation beforehand, his team of seconds, and the engine.
Right.
And if I play this risky line, or something that I find risky, I might just end up in a bad position because I have to make all these accurate moves that my opponent knows,
Right.
by prior research. And so here, Fabiano's in the same boat. If you play h4, it may really backfire because that pawn's not coming back. You're not casting kingside. I mentioned this earlier, but if that's the case, your king is stuck in the center, which is perfectly safe for the moment. But as the game goes on and black eventually goes bishop e7 and castles, then your king is going to become a real problem.
Yermo in the chat, shout out to Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky, showing himself there, lurking for the first time, saying Database has Houdini Stockfish as the first time h4 was played. So, in fact, we now have h4 and h5 on the board.
Immediately.
Shout out to Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura hanging out in the Twitch chat. And everybody who's here, all of our subscribers, premium members, we see you subscribing. Even if we can't shout out your username, forgive us. We love you, and we appreciate all the support, the bits, the love flowing in. Thank you, everyone who's here. I also saw a question in the Chess TV chat of how did we get here. So let's do a quick reminder as the players slowing down a little bit to remember their prep. We got here by a repeat of the openings you've now seen a few times. Sveshnikov's in games 8 and games 10, and now in games 12. And after e5, knight d5, we saw once again Fabiano likes his sideline of knight to d5. If you're trying to remember what the mainline analysis is or what the reasons are that black has to take here, aka forky mode, you can see our analysis to games 8 and 10. But we're going to move forward past that since we've already reviewed this a few times. And after captures, we had our first deviation in the game. If you're just getting here, Magnus Carlsen choosing knight e7 instead of the move 8 knight to b8. Magnus saying, I'm not going to go into this line one more time and give your team of seconds, and the engine Robert was just mentioning, a chance to beat me. So he played knight e7. Fabiano played the move c4. And after the move knight to g6, we pointed out as a very important move to prevent things like smothered checkmate if you're into that kind of thing. Some people are into that. We had knight to g6, knight to c3, queen a4 anyway, bishop d7, queen b4, Magnus rattling off bishop f5 very quickly, showing he's still in prep. Fabiano playing the most principled h4 move, and h5 has us in the live position.
Yep.
So there you go. That is how we have arrived at our third Sveshnikov.
And we're now similar territory to was that game 9 in the English? Yes, it was game 9, where bishop g5 or bishop e3 are the two moves that stick out to me.
Yep.
And bishop g5 sort of provokes f6, because after bishop g5 you can't go bishop e7. Well, actually, maybe you can, but I take it you have to take with the king, because otherwise you lose the d6 pawn.
Right.
But this
and
looks
now
terrible
you're
after
calculating
c5.
things like this.
Yeah, this looks
okay,
like
so
something
no.
you
So
absolutely
bishop e7 not an option.
which means you should go f6.
Right.
Likely.
Now you back up.
Now you back up, and now the question is inducing this f6 move good
Right.
for white or good for black, or
Right.
just sort of a neutral situation? Because as you're pointing out, the light squares seem very weak, but how do you get there?
Right.
Your knight needs to go to d4 to go to e6, not happening. So if I go a6, for example, your knight's moving backward, and then, well, the question becomes still,
Do you have enough? Yeah.
and how is white going to castle?
Right.
I guess black has the same question with the pawn being on h5, but I think that black's setup is pretty solid for the time being, and as long as you can keep the pawn h5 defended, you will be able to castle. I think white is better in this line, slightly
Right.
better, but you're playing you have to play with the initiative, you have to play with the momentum here, otherwise you're in danger of any sort of advantage becoming null.
Agreed 100%. Shout out to Diamond member Nick Hain in the Chess TV chat who wants us to explain why h4. So h4 is played here because the knight on g6 is a potential target. For example, if black did not choose to play the move h5 and played something like bishop e7, here comes an all-out aggressive push of Harry. Right, we've got magic on the H-file, and you may even go all the way, not because you're playing Hikaru Nakamura bullet chess, but because anything you can do to create awkwardness and weaknesses over here on the king side is a potentially long-term issue here for this king.
And then there's a move bishop g5 here, which looks very interesting.
Yeah, I mean this would be bananas if you could get something like this. So, but okay, we don't even need to go down to crazy town before we can appreciate that h5 is a real threat and this knight is losing squares. And so, to answer your question, Nick, that's why black plays h5. Now, the risk of h5 is the same risk of h4. Black has extended a pawn, potentially making problems for himself in the long term on the king side, right? But he plays h5 because he's saying the same thing to white. You've also played h4, potentially creating problems for yourself and where you're going to put your king on your king side, as Robert's been highlighting. So, that to answer your question, is why h4 and h5 are played, and why it seems to be a principled approach. Fabiano now deciding whether he wants bishop g5, as Robert was highlighting.
Yeah, another thing I think about when playing bishop g5 and f6, just sort of thinking about it, is it gives the f7 square for the black king. And that seems like, why would I even think about this, right? Why would I want to think of my king going to f7? But the point is, sometimes you can castle by hand. You can take a slower approach where you put your bishop on e7, then your king on f7, and keep the pawn h5 defended for as long as possible, and challenge white's setup once more, because you're not castling queenside. I think I'm pretty confident that white is not intending to castle queenside.
You don't want to when you've got such an exposed area around your king.
Yeah, and the pawn on c4, it's advanced, but that means it also can become an easier target. So if that's the case, then I think black can try to eventually put that king on f7, not immediately, but think about that in the long run, just saying, I'm going to keep my king here, everything's safe, and then I'll maneuver my pieces as they see fit.
Yeah, maybe you get the rook over here to c8, the old-fashioned way.
And both sides have the same difficulty, right? Because it's not like white just can't do anything, but the king being in the center, you want to figure out where it's going to go.
Right.
And so moves like bishop to e2 will always come to mind for white, and then that's the real question. My setup seems ideal. What to do from there?
Right. Okay. The chat is reminding me to go back to h4, so I'll go back to it again. But people really wondering and worried about this, and we have some time because the players are thinking. The other comment was, well, then why wasn't the pawn taken? If you just got here, then you forgot that we highlighted this pawn is not really possible to capture if white just takes straight ahead and then provides a fork at the end of this line. White is actually just up a piece, and there's other threats against the black king, and so shout out to our cheer right there. Thank you so much. It's not a pawn you can take. So again, I know that h4 and h5 immediately looks to a lot of players, and I think it's a fair point that we should provide because it's an educational moment for the majority of the chess understanding in the chat rooms. It seems like both sides just creating weaknesses, and in some sense you're not wrong, right? I mean, the basics you learn about don't play on the edge of the board, and every time you push a pawn you can't move back. These will be themes throughout this game. But when you're playing chess at the most concrete level, you're trying to do things that pressure your opponent no matter what. And h4 is a move that pressures black to cause a lot of dysfunction on the king side, and the pawn can't be taken. In order to stop that, black creates a dysfunctional problem of his own potentially on the light square. So again, it's a very concrete way to kind of set the tone that both sides are playing for a win today. So whether h4 seems like the move you would play, be happy that both of these guys are playing it because it means we might be in for a fight here in game 12. So it makes me excited.
Yeah,
I don't know if you can tell.
It's backed by an engine game, that's what I'm being told. And also in that game, I keep mentioning this with bishop g5. In fact, after bishop g5, that other engine, let me look which one it was, played queen to b8. It was Houdini versus Stockfish, and Stockfish was black, and queen to b8 was the move. So that's really interesting that after bishop g5, queen to b8. And that way you don't have to compromise your pawn structure. But the reason why I'm not feeling queen b8 so much is you're going to have to go f6 probably in the future anyway, although maybe the plans go a6 and then bishop e7 and trade this way. But perhaps it's not committing this pawn to f6 yet. Just to,
that's Stockfish's idea. Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly not Stockfish, so queen b8 is a hard move for me to play. f6 is not an easy move to play, honestly, either. But queen b8 is sort of ignoring it, getting your queen out of the way. Interesting idea.
Yeah, and we'll see what Fabiano comes up with. We're going to be joined soon by our first guest, one of our journalists on site. But before we get to that, let's remind everybody of what our daily question was and show you some of the activity that we have on social media, people getting involved with it, and we invite you to do the same because depending on the creativity or just the insight of your answer, you may win a Diamond membership. So if you don't have enough motivation to have fun with us in a conversation on social media, maybe a Diamond membership will do it. So let's see what some of the tweets were to this question. Here's a good one. Too many missed opportunities and not enough decisive results. So that's a vote against this one to rank it high. So it's down on the list for him. Also, the players, while brilliant, are not really bringing that much excitement or personality. Amazing chess players, but not an amazing World Chess Championship. Okay. So those who want decisive results, there's a view there. Given the high standard of play and so very opportunities for decisive results, I would say first. So it's hilarious, right? Literally in the same dynamic, you have the same exact reasons for voting it higher or lower, right?
Also tweeted 1 minute apart.
Right, and tweeted 1 minute apart, right? And that shows you, to me, I guess, from the perspective that we have such a global world these days, technology has in many ways shrunk conversations like this, where you get to bring people from all different facets of life to give an opinion on the same topic, and have it easily accessible in opportunities like this. You're going to get that, which I think is a great thing, right? You're going to, it's a polarizing question by design. Robert, you actually have what may be a sort of polarizing or surprising answer. Tell everybody your pick for the greatest world championship ever and why.
Oh boy, gotta go back to 1910.
1910.
Yeah, where you have Lasker, Schlechter.
You weren't born then.
I'm
assuming that nobody watching this show was born then.
No, I don't think. Maybe maybe a couple people in the world who were born then, 1910, because that would make you 108.
Yep.
But anyway, that match between Schlechter and Lasker, where there's a controversy. That's really why I like it.
Which is why you like it.
Yeah, there's really historical elements there that it was argued with whether or not Schlechter would win by 2 games, because he was up 5-4 heading into the 10th game, and he ended up losing that game despite having a winning position. And there's been a lot of argument and research and trying to find evidence whether or not he actually had to win that game, and that's why he was nervous and you couldn't just make a draw from
meaning back then it was like table tennis. You had to win by 2, right? 2 points.
Wait a second. Did we just see a little bit of repetition?
We did see a repetition.
We're
not going to see a draw. Don't worry. Relax. So anyway, let's talk. That's a great point, because again, that may have been another historical. People love historical fiction, right? What if Schlechter had become world champion because he wasn't in this impossible position having to win by 2?
Yeah.
Nobody here has to win by 2, right? If somebody wins this game, the match is over. So that was a surprising pick by you to me.
Well, and also back then, right, it's not like the internet where as soon as it's done, it's everyone in the world sees what the regulations are. So some more shady business could go on there behind the scenes. And it's surprising, but I remember when my coach told me about the Greg, I was like, no way, that can't be real. I started doing a little bit of reading about it, and I was like, wow, this is fascinating that someone had to win by 2 games. The challenger had to win by 2 games over the reigning champion. It seems ridiculous.
Well, we've got I think we've got a lot of panic about the repetition. But Hikaru made a joke that that maybe Fabiano should repeat once and then think for 20 minutes. And I wondered if he was joking, but maybe he's not.
I actually was going to mention this later in the broadcast, so Hikaru beat me to the punch. But I was going to say, if Fabiano got in time trouble later for the last few moves, I would say he could have repeated early in the game. Right? Queen A4, Queen B4 was always available. So
which is what I mean. Hikaru's saying that's actually not the worst. I don't know how much sarcasm is intended by Hikaru. He's got a good sense of humor, but it's actually not the worst strategy, right? Because what you're saying is, hey, I might need my time to figure out how much I want to play for a win here. And by making one more move, you're one step closer to move 40, which reminds us maybe we can show everybody and remind everybody of the format of the match to kind of explain why this repetition is a useful thing. Because once you reach move 40, the players get 50 more minutes on the clock. And so it's advanced chess, and certainly different chess that most people are not used to online, Robert, because most people are used to blitz and rapid, right? But getting to move 40 is the initial goal of the first portion to get more time to think, and so repeating moves is not the worst idea. The tiebreak format, again, we've had a lot of questions about that, so we'll just mention it here, though I don't think we're about to see a draw. Don't worry, everyone. Just to remind you, if we do have a draw, on Wednesday we will be back, and we will have a best-of-4 rapid with 25 minutes plus 10-second increment. And if we're still locked in an epic match, we'll go on to blitz. So that's what happens in case of a 6-6 tie, and we will remind you of that throughout the day today as we see different questions about the format. So,
and I just have to say, people have been praising, especially Fabiano fans, have been kind of praising his opening preparation, and that's sort of what he's known for. And all of our guests have said the same. But can we give some credit to Magnus?
Yeah.
And Team Carlsen here just saying, you know what? I'm going to throw Fabi out of his element as quickly as possible. And I think, yes, he's repeating moves because it saves him time, but I think he's also repeating moves because he's nervous. That Magnus came in here, no, I'm not just going to make a draw and head to rapids where I know I'm the higher-rated player, I have the better chances. Everyone is saying that Magnus is going to win the tiebreak.
Right.
No, I'm here to fight. I'm not just going to play some sort of passive game and let it try to fizz on draw. I'm going to fight. And if you want to fight, I'm ready to bring it.
Right. Well, he said that in the post-game press conference too, right? It's kind of in White's corner, right? Balls on your court, or what's the thing?
In your court.
Well, yeah, whatever, right? So the ball's in your field to score a hoop and a touchdown, right? The point is, White is sort of the one responsible for setting the tempo of the game at the highest level, right? So Magnus is saying, hey, if Fabiano wants it, I'm ready, right?
Yep.
If he doesn't, I'm ready for rapid, which is kind of good trash talk in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I disagree with that tweet talking about the personalities having been great. I actually think if you watch some of the post-game press conferences, there's been some interesting back and forth and dynamics of these guys showing their attitude,
Well,
especially Magnus.
Yeah, I would say, quite frankly, Magnus is not afraid to have a controversial statement
Right.
or to give a very curt reply to what he deems a not great question. And he just says no, and then everyone laughs and it's over with.
Yep.
So right now, I think Fabiano will eventually play the move Bishop G5, but there have to be a whole lot of nerves here. He was very nervous in Game 1. He played shaky chess. And I think in Game 12, with the World Championship on the line, right? If he loses this game, he's out.
Right.
Magnus has not. Well, he's been in a situation, I guess, against Karyakin where he was down a game and he almost lost his World Championship title. Here it's been back and forth battle, and he knows that if he loses, he's no longer world champion. He doesn't want to lose, but he's ready. He has the experience for this kind of battle. So,
as we wait for our first guest here, our I believe we're going to be joined by Peter Dockers soon, a journalist.
Poggers.
Mr. Dockers.
Mr. Poggers.
Poggers, right? Get your Poggers emotes. And our subscribers can use the emotes, but I also want to give a huge shout out to our followers because no graphic prepared, but just a random casual note that we did just cross 100,000 followers for our channel. So thank you to everybody. And if you're here for the first time, hit that follow button before you go anywhere because if 100,000 other people have done it, you should follow too. Anyway, but let's talk about Bishop to G5. Because this would be the fight for the win. And Math Guy MA in the Chess TV chat just pointed out the other truth is that if we have history today by Fabiano winning, we will also have a new world number 1.
Yep.
Right? So if Fabiano managed to get some winning chances with this move, I expect we'll see probably Stockfish's move if I had to guess. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Queen B8 does make sense. I mean, just
because it's not the worst square for the queen either, right? I mean, I know it seems passive, but it guards d6. It does support a6 and maybe some queenside play. So, and you kind of leave the question here of what you want to do with this bishop.
And I was going to say, that's a great question. And also, let's say white plays bishop e2. There might be some lines where black just plays knight f4. So, essentially sort of giving up a pawn. And after bishop e2, well, all right, you're putting pressure on the h5 square. And I was saying knight f4 in some ideas, in some lines, a thematic pawn sacrifice, saying, well, I'm attacking g2, I'm attacking your bishop on e2, and I'm trying to get my knight into this d3 square. And if you take me, sometimes you can get away with this from the black side, saying, okay, I may very well just lose this pawn immediately, but I'm going to get compensation in the form of 2 bishops, particularly if a bishop, the dark square bishop can get to the long diagonal, putting pressure on white's position. I wouldn't go for this if I were black, but it just goes to show that this is one of the many, many ideas in the position available, and so there's a lot to think about. Okay, bishop e7 at some moment can also be considered. Perhaps not yet, but not there. Bishop e7 to trade off those bishops and once more try to get into the f4 square is something that can be considered. So bishop g5, I agree with you, Danny, that queen b8 is the likely response, but still have not had liftoff after bishop to f5. So Fabiano going into the think tank here. And going to be very interesting to see. And I see Hikaru in the chat says, I'd say 30% queen a4, 40% bishop g5, 30% bishop e3. But very interesting to hear from him.
Yeah, Hikaru, he's a man of percentages. He invests in the market. So not surprising to see him break down like that. I don't know that I agree with the high percentage of queen a4. I guess I would just be shocked if it repeated, but maybe Hikaru wouldn't be. So the question is, I mean, okay, other than the psychology of being nervous about Magnus's prep, what reason would you have to repeat? White's a little bit better in these positions, right? And you can still push on here for a little while, but the question is, what other reasons would you have to repeat besides if you're just nervous about Magnus's prep, which to me would be a huge psychological failing.
That's it. I mean, that's really it. Like,
Okay.
like Magnus said, and there's bishop
And
e3.
there we go. And I didn't expect to repeat, and so I'm glad that that's the case. So
An interesting choice to put the bishop on e3, right? Because
Well-
bishop g5 is sort of the obvious move we're talking about. But
yeah, but it also maintains some flexibility. We talk about bishop d5 may not even be the most useful move, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're officially in novelty territory with bishop e3 now that this position hasn't been played before, which means it's officially time to welcome our first guest. Let's bring him on. The one, the only, Mr. Poggers. use your emotes proudly because you love him. Peter, why did you have to wait for Fabiano to move before joining us? Tell me what amazing, interesting drama is going on site there.
Amazing, interesting drama. Of course, that there was a possibility that we would not have an amazing, interesting drama today, but a beautiful competition instead.
So you needed to be ready to run in
everybody
case
was already
Fabiano took a
sorry.
draw.
Everybody was getting ready to jump to the playing hall for the press conference
Right.
because people want to be there, and so yeah, I just
Well,
thought it would be a bit risky to come into the show right at this point.
the good news is that's not happening, which means that all of the special
Exactly.
guests we have lined up will be here, and we'll remind people of who's coming up in a moment. But okay, so we're not having a repetition. We have Bishop E3 on the board. What other insights and view from the press can you give us here in regards to, the non X's and O's going on in here headed here into Game 12?
Yeah, well, the most interesting is the situation in the playing hall before this game. It's very well known that in World Championships there's also always a huge media attention for a very first game, and usually for games 2, 3, and beyond, it's about half of that because all the mainstream media are not coming back again. But now for this 12th game, it seems everybody is back here. I counted. You have seen the images, the photos. It's a small, relatively small playing hall, of course, for only one board and two players. But there were still, I think, about 50 people inside during the first 5 to 10 minutes. They even allowed extra photographers on the other side of the chessboard, so not only on one side like usual, which means that I might actually be in many photos
I was
myself
going to
because
say,
I
I
was
think I just saw the
filming
tall
from
Peter
the other side.
Doggers in
Yeah,
a photo on
yeah, exactly.
for a
I
while
was
there.
wearing
You were very
so
clear, Mr. Big Bird in the back of it. I call you that, the tallest
I
guy in the
was
room.
I was pink poggers today.
You
With a
were,
pink shirt.
you were poggers.
And I was basically mostly filming because Maria, our Chess.com photographer, was taking photos from the other side. So I'm sure we also have some video footage of them coming into the playing hall, shaking hands and everything. And
Great.
because of course it might be an historic game today.
Peter,
And yeah, among all those photographers was also the famous old chess photographer Harry Benson, who made a fantastic series of photos of Fischer in 1972, and there's also a special book with all those photos. Those photos are actually brilliant. If you Google Harry Benson Fischer and you search for images on Google, you will see the most fantastic Bobby Fischer's photos ever. And
agreed.
that person was here as well, and that was special.
Peter, I have a
So
question for you. In addition to
sure.
the media being there, have the team's seconds come? Because I know the seconds stay out of the way. They're kind of hiding in the room preparing during every round. But now that there's a chance for one of the players to be crowned the new world champion, have you seen any of the seconds show up at the playing site?
No, I haven't yet. What I do know is that Peter Heine Nielsen, Magnus, almost always is present during the press conferences, which uh, makes me believe that he's actually spending time. Maybe later in the game, he actually goes to the VIP room and spends time there with Magnus's father, Henrik, their manager. Because otherwise he would never be able to attend the press conference so quickly if he would be staying in the hotel. And I know Christian Carilla, member of Fabi's team, has been here many days. But the big man Rumko Zemjanov, who is I think like their delegation leader and the main grandmaster helping Fabiano, ex-FIDE world champion himself. I haven't seen him yet, but he must be close.
Well, Peter, there was a lot of, I think, talk about, well, a lot of memories about the final game of the 2016 World Chess Championship, the final classical game of the 2016 World Championship, where Magnus really didn't put in that much of a fight with the white pieces and willingly welcomed the tiebreak versus Sergei Karyakin. And a lot of the feelings, at the very least, were positive in the sense that we wouldn't see that from Fabiano. One, because Fabiano doesn't consider himself a favorite in rapid like Magnus did against Sergei, and two, maybe Fabiano does feel he has more chances here as white.
He did want to. He did stress in one of the press conferences that he doesn't see himself as a huge underdog either.
Yes.
But yeah, he knows that Magnus is at least a small favorite.
Right. Well, I think you kind of
And
have to say that too. I think you have to be feeling, and I'm not saying that's not true. In fact, I've been maybe one of the few saying I don't think it's as big of a mismatch in Rapid as people think either. But I was just going to say that because we didn't see that path and it doesn't look like we're getting a repetition, does that make you more excited as a journalist on site covering it, or are you kind of exhausted right now? Maybe secretly were you hoping for a quick draw? Be honest.
No, definitely not.
Okay,
Absolutely
good.
not. You can say basically that if you're here for 3 weeks, 2 extra days
Right.
is not that much of a deal. And Rapid and Blitz is also always super exciting. But I'm more it's the chess fan Poggers who speaks when he says that in an ideal world, a classical world championship is decided in classical chess.
Right.
So even though it's awesome to see those Rapid and Blitz games, in my opinion, we're talking about a different
Agreed.
part of the sport, a different type of sport even. And I was having an interesting conversation with famous and very experienced journalist Leoncho Garcia from Spain, and he's well known for not liking the draws in chess, changes
Well,
to the match. And for example, he said we should have a rapid game after each draw with reverse color, stuff like that. There are many ideas, of course,
he's the
but
Greg
I
the
don't
Greg
like that.
Shahadi route. The Greg Shahadi route.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah. But you're in that way you're really mixing rapid and classical, and
Right.
the classical is getting diluted that way. In my opinion, it makes much more sense if you really want to do this to improve and increase the number of fans watching chess, because that's what we all want in the end. I think it makes much more sense to promote Rapid and Blitz much more. So create,
Separately. Right.
maybe even create a separate World Championship match for Rapids
Right.
and a giant knockout World Championship for Blitz.
Or if only
And
they had an event that brought all the best in the world and Blitz together online.
yeah,
Maybe something like the
something like
Speed
that,
Chess
or have a
Championship,
Grand
right?
Prix, or have a
Or
full cycle with Grand Prix and candidates tournament for Rapid, just to separate and make sure you see it like three different sports. You have the
right.
Blitz chess, the Rapid chess, and the actual chess, and then in my opinion, if you do it like that, you have much better chance that your audience for the sport will grow.
Well, Peter,
Also
it
combined with online events, of course.
it seems that we are. Robert and I highlighted a couple games in our pregame show where World Championships did end in the final game. Of course, everyone remembers Topalov versus Anon from 2010 is the most recent,
Yeah,
but we went as far back
yeah.
as Chigorin's blunder
Friday the
versus
13th.
Steinitz, and so we're with you
Yeah.
that we want classical chess to be the thing that decides the match, and maybe today we will have that. So I think we're going to get back to the game here. We've had a few moves and some X's and O's to dive into, but
Yes.
thanks for all you do on site. Let me remind everybody, get at Peter on Twitter, follow the one and only Poggers. Use your Poggers emote as I did just a few moments ago, and follow Peter Doggers and look for his news report at some point when the round comes to an end, win, lose, or draw. Him and Mike will be bringing us the news. So thanks for all you do, buddy.
Enjoy the show, guys.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Peter.
Well, we've now had a few moves, Robert, and I know you were anxious to get back to the game, but we were also anxious to mention some of the great action going on Twitter. Carlsen Caruana match is ranked somewhere around Bob Ross TV shows. It's exciting, and you get a lot of drawing experience.
That is amazing.
First of all, that guy just wins the pun award, right?
Yep.
I've mentioned how dramatic the match has been, and here we have some drawing experience that only Bob Ross can bring us. So thank you for that Photoshop effort. Definitely worthy of a diamond membership. But all right, we've had a few moves since Mr. Dockers joined us. We saw Bishop E3 rather than the more forceful Bishop G5. I personally think that might be a good sign for Fabi that he doesn't want to go into the roads most traveled. Magnus took his first sort of small think of the match. It took a few minutes before playing A6, after which Fabiano played Knight C3, and now Mr. Carlsen is indeed thinking.
And it's important to note that the pawn A7 was actually hanging, right? So
Yes,
A6,
I mean, I guess straight up we should point out that A6 had a reason I was threatening to win a pawn.
Yep. And so, it's multiple reasons. Protect the pawn by moving it and attack the knight. So after A6, knight comes to C3.
Right.
And now you look at the B6 square. That's something that I will keep in mind probably for the rest of the games. If this white knight somehow goes into the B6 square, if you can do that in a timely manner, you're taking up space, you're attacking the rook on A8, and it can be very annoying to deal with. That said, the knight on B6, once the rook moves away from the attack, it's not going anywhere from there, so I wouldn't rush to that point. Now, Bishop E7 should be the move played. And the reason why, it looks like you're sacrificing this pawn on B7, but
Right.
after queen takes B7, rook to B8. Now, I'm going to win your b2 pawn. So even if you take your second pawn on the a6 square, I go rook takes b2, and that's an extremely important pawn on b2.
Yep.
Not that black's pawns are not important, but look at the white king. It is still stuck in the center. You have to take time to actually get your king out, because if you play bishop e2, then your h4 pawn is also
now
hanging.
you can finally take this pawn.
It's extremely well protected by the bishop and the queen there, and so black is getting tons of counterplay on the king side. So you have to be very careful before picking up the gauntlet and taking these queenside pawns, because you may be up material, but positionally you can find yourself in a lot of trouble.
Yep. And that's interesting, because I think Magnus is probably calculating right now both variations like that to be sure, right, that we're okay with the pawn being taken, but also, try to anticipate what Fabiano might do outside of taking the pawn, right? I think bishop e7 makes a ton of sense as far as a move you could play quickly, right? I mean, it hits the h4 pawn and therefore threatens to capture it with the knight. But let me ask a question. Now that there's no longer a threat of knight to c7, Robert, is it possible Magnus is thinking about taking right away?
Well, now I would be very happy to probably
take b7.
I mean, c5 is another option. Look at, if I go pawn to c5, your knight on h4 is now in big trouble.
Ooh, look at you using your full board awareness. I'm so happy when you calculate. Look
right?
at that.
So I'm attacking this knight.
I back it up.
Yep.
Now maybe you... I mean, there's a lot of options here.
I might take on b7 now.
You might take d6.
Yeah. I mean, play c6 just to keep that pawn rolling. I mean...
Okay, interesting. So
Queen
Magnus,
a4 check actually might be the best move.
Oh, Queen a4 check. Yeah, because bishop to d7 can be met by c6, and we might have a puzzle rush combo here in a moment. So, indeed, Magnus not interested in taking h4, but also not interested in giving up the b7 pawn either. Plays the solid move, Queen c7, but this move worries me a little bit, because if he's already having to defend this, don't we feel that that queen is ideally not on a square like c7, or do you think he feels like he can really slow down c5?
I think slowing down c5, and white has to be concerned with his pawn h4. So, in order to protect, you have to make him like g3, which takes another tempo to fully develop. So
well,
I think Magnus is planning just go bishop b7.
I don't have to play g3 anymore. Your queen isn't on the pawn.
But I guess my point is you're not castling then.
Ah, okay, I see what you're saying. Sorry, I thought you were talking about an immediate threat, right?
No,
so I could play something like bishop
go
b2
bishop
here,
e7,
bishop e7.
And you still have to play g3.
Right, okay, exactly. And both sides have a similar problem, right? They both have these pawns, and now black has to figure out how to deal with this pawn.
And when I see this pawn structure for white, my immediate reaction for black is to put this pawn from f7 to f4. To just challenge the entire setup.
You know that Chess.com bugs don't let you do that, right? You can't just jump a pawn from f7 to f4.
I thought it was fixed.
I'm working on that. I've been talking to the developers. If they could fix this bug, it would be great.
But, essentially, g3 invites a kingside attack, right? Because when you push your pawns, it makes it easier for the other side to push their pawns and start challenging this setup. So f5, f4, once this bishop moves from the f5 square, well, that seems very reasonable. In fact, bishop g4 might be a reasonable response here. Just to say, well, if you take me, that's fine. I'll play f5, f4 next, and be happy to start challenging white's entire setup. And if you don't have the necessary preparation and you haven't researched the position, I'd be very nervous if I'm Fabiano. I mean, I think that his position is slightly better for the time being. We're still pretty early in the opening stages. I know you say, look, we're on move 16. How are we early? But when some of those moves are repetition, right? Queen a4 to b4, and just the position as it stands, only one pawn and one knight have been traded. So many pieces still on the board, still in the realm of preparation, especially for Magnus. So I think if I'm Fabiano, I am quite nervous about how this game is going to go, because anytime I make a move like pawn to g3, as mentioned, we were showing before, I start thinking, well, I'm inviting black's attack, and we saw it in game 10, where Magnus had the black pieces. It looked very difficult for Fabi before he defended, but that attack will rage on. So right here, another critical moment for Fabiano. He no longer can make that repetition that he was trying for before. Well, he wasn't trying for it, but he was allowed to make it. And without that repetition, you don't have a draw to throw in your back pocket. Now you're going to have to really fight on your own merits here. No preparation, no repetitions possible. Now it's all brain. So we'll see here how white continues. And I see that Fancy Play Syndrome says f7, f5, f4 takes a long time. Yeah, it's obviously not the quickest plan, because I have to move my bishop out of the way and then finally push my pawn. But at the same time, what's white's plan in the process? You have to come up with something concrete. And, well, not easy.
Yeah, both sides going to be diving down the concrete, I go there, he goes there type of calculation right now. Let's talk about our first guest who's going to be joining us here in just a few moments. We're going to have the one, the only, Grandmaster Levon Aronian. I am super excited to have this guy on the show. His pedigree kind of speaks for itself right there. Number 1 ranked in Armenia. Been a perennial top 10 player his entire career. He's a 3-time gold medalist at the Olympiad, and maybe most notably for this week, he's also competing against Hikaru Nakamura coming up at the Speed Chess Championship here at the end of the week. So Levon is actually already with us and will be joining the show momentarily. But on that note, we're going to take our first very, very quick break and remind all of you not to go anywhere because a very special guest will be joining us when we come back. And we are back at the 2018 World Chess Championship. Last game of the year, Robert. Can't hold anything back now. Thanks, Brent. We got you bagels for the first time. I promised Robert's mom I'd get him some bagels. Want to make sure that our boy here is well fed. And Robert finally getting his bagel emote on. For those of you who subscribers to the channel, you know that bagels are a regular part of Chess.com shows, as they should be whenever Robert Hess is on. So let's dive back into the game. We haven't actually seen a move yet, so you haven't missed anything too exciting. Don't you stress. Black played the move queen to c7, and we're still... I'm getting a little close to you, huh? Maybe I should back up. Am I man-spreading on you?
No, you're good.
I man-spread it all over your bagel here just a moment ago.
You spread that cream cheese real well. And so, before you get into inappropriate waters, I think we should...
Before?
You're a problem. You're a problem. I hope you enjoyed your half of the bagel.
I did. That was so good. Everything bagel with cream cheese.
Mine was cinnamon raisin, so.
Cinnamon raisin is kind of like a kid bagel, which makes sense because you're kind of my adopted kid for this month. So, I mean, like, I bring Robert and Nash places, they go to the same stuff, same things,
Yep.
All right, well, we've we've got a position to analyze here. What do you think?
You're making me analyze.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so we saw Hikaru talking to us before.
We're going to have Levon with us analyzing soon. Again, if you're just getting here, you're forgetting that our first very, very special guest of the day is going to be, I guess, Mr. Poggers, very special as well. We love you, Peter. But Levon Aronian will be with us in just a few moments. So if you missed that memo, now you know. We have other guests lined up as well. I don't know that we want to shout them all out yet, but you've seen one of them actively in the Twitch chat. If the timing works out, Mr. Hikaru Nakamura will also be with us, so you can look forward to that. It's Game 12, so like we said, last game of the year. We're not going to hold anything back now. Dan. And
Where's Bobby Boucher when you need him?
Yep.
That's the real question.
Where is Bobby Boucher? Where's Brent Musburger when you need him?
No, you never need Brent Musburger.
Never need Brent
Never.
Musburger?
But Bobby Boucher,
Yeah.
I need some high quality H2O.
Yep, high-quality H2O, right? Because you can do it. You can do it in Game 12.
Well, instead of Mama saying, Hikaru was talking, I saw in the chat before, about, instead of Queen C7, when we were discussing this, the Bishop E7 variation.
Okay.
And he was saying that, in particular, he felt this was more dangerous for Caruana than the live board. And
Okay.
the reason why is because if White does try to go kind of all in and take these queenside pawns, as we were discussing, there's some real problems with White's setup, where
Right.
you're underdeveloped, Black is ready to castle at any moment, H4 is hanging, and even when you do castle, it's not entirely clear your king will be safe,
Right.
because your queen is all the way on the other side of the board. You don't have that many pieces on the king side.
Yep.
But instead, of course, after Queen C7, as Fabiano is really deep in the think tank here.
Well, but maybe he's in the think tank because he's slightly relieved, I guess, trying to make sure he chooses plans here. And you're right, Hikaru Nakamura chatting with us privately here on our team Slack channel, also kind of saying he just what Robert reiterated right there, that doesn't feel like Magnus has chosen the most dangerous lines to challenge Caruana. And maybe that's Magnus saying, okay, I'm willing to play for a win if Fabiano's going to push, but I'm also not going to be too nuts either, right? I don't want to lose the world championship, any more than Fabiano does, right?
And there's no reason for him to be in at all costs, because
Right.
he's the favorite in the rapid part.
Right.
If they go to tiebreak, so he should play it relatively safe. But I think he
But
enjoys
you could
his
argue
position
that
here.
that strategy could end up backfiring,
I
right?
don't think so.
He's pressured Fabiano before,
Yeah.
so
Well,
if you give Fabiano a position where he can safely push his white, to me,
But that's not
it's
what
much
this is.
easier for Fabiano.
I totally agree, but this is not what this is a double-edged position, right?
Okay.
We see that the pawn structure is asymmetrical. 4-on-3 on the
Right.
queen side, for white, 4-on-3
Yep.
on the king side for black.
Yep.
So sort of both sides have similar ideas, where white would love to break through with c5, and as we were talking before, if white does play g3, then black would love to break through with f5, f4, and actually that's the exact same thing, just mirror image, right? F4 and c5 are kind of mirror image squares there. So.
Yep. No, that's actually a really good point. They are mirror images, literally, in terms of their position on the board, and both sides wanting them as key breakthroughs to open up space for the rest of their pieces. So, Fabiano now thinking about Queen C7. We are officially in novelty area, in case you're wondering. Has this position been played before? I don't believe so.
No.
Not in terms of certainly high-level theory or games that we have access to in our own database. So, I think that there's a good chance that for both these players, they're 100% on their own too, right?
I would say that's true for Fabiano, but I'm not so positive about Magnus, because
Okay.
he's the one who chose this variation. He's
Right.
playing. Look at his time, right? He's only spent 5
Right.
minutes since his
Right,
start.
up almost 30 minutes on the clock right now.
Yeah, and so that leads me to believe, okay, Magnus. Well, the moves are sort of natural for Black too. That's what also concerns me about Caruana's position, is he has to decide: do I want to play G3? Am I going to be forced to play G3? And if that's the case, what are the repercussions of this?
Right.
As we keep noting, right, there's different pawn majorities: white on the queen side, black on the king side. But the king side, right, king side.
That's where the
your
king
is.
goes normally.
And so if your king is there, then once that pawn storm happens,
Right.
your king is in
And this has been the
great big
theme
danger.
of this structure throughout.
Yeah.
Every time they've had us switching up. Let's actually show a line like that just so people understand. So let's say bishop e2, black plays bishop e7. We get g3 kind of out of force.
Yep.
And now, just to even highlight that you don't have to castle, or you don't even need to try for this anymore as black, because you've got the rook guarding it. If black backs up this bishop, this is sort of the kind of variation where we might see Robert's idea come to fruition. White castles thinking all is safe. Here comes f5. And with it, possibly f4
Yeah.
next, and
And white's not in time to play f4 precisely because your pawn's on h4. Because if you go f4, and I capture you, now you don't really want to take with a pawn
Right.
because that down goes h4.
Yep.
And if you take with the bishop, then I'm happy to take your bishop off the board.
Or even 95, but yeah.
95 is possible. I'm happy
Yeah.
to take this bishop off. Rook
And
play
I've
g6.
lost the bishop pair. So I think if we got in an all-out race position like this, you would probably see moves like this. Black backs up the queen, and you're in a position that is white trying to bust through with c5. But look how aggressively black is ahead of the game here, right? And if f4 comes in, this could be a very double-edged game.
Yeah, definitely. And f4, of course, playing f5, f4 has its drawbacks as well because you cede control of the e4 square. So anytime you move a pawn, you loosen control of other squares. So it's very interesting dynamic there. But I don't like the fact that Fabiano is thinking so much, and I'm very curious to hear what Levon's thoughts are when we bring him on.
Yeah, and on that note, I think we're actually going to have Levon with us. I'm going to invite him to our analysis board right here, right now, as you are reminded of who he is. Mr. Levon Aronian is going to be getting an invite. Hopefully he sees that in the live chess server there. But Levon, if you are with us, the world is waiting and ready to hear your thoughts on Game 12, and there we have it. Mr. Levon Aronian. Welcome, sir.
Good to be here.
Well, we've I don't know how much you've had to listen to me and Robert talk about the game before you got to come in here and help teach us what we don't know. But your initial thoughts quickly before we talk about we'd love to get your thoughts on the bigger picture of what's happened in this match, but your initial thoughts on what we're seeing here on the board in Game 12.
I think this looks kind of a position that white should generally opt for because, at least he has a clear plan. He has to push probably the a-pawn soon enough, play g3. The important moment is that black probably will try to meet g3 with e4 and knight e5 because I don't think black can afford to play slowly like, bishop d7 and f5, something like that. So I'm assuming that this is going to get really dirty very soon, like in a move or two.
Which is exciting, right, for all of us here wondering whether or not we would have both sides having decisive chances, winning chances. So if you would, you can kind of take the reign here and make moves on the board. If you would take us through the game, I'm actually most curious to get your thoughts starting on move 7. We've now seen Fabiano play this line 3 times in this match. Did you expect we would see something like this, kind of a sideline in a mainline Sveshnikov? And what have been your thoughts so far on what Fabiano's gotten with this approach?
Well, after all, this is a move that has been played recently by Vladimir Kramnik. When this guy plays any line, you have to be watching and trying to learn from him. So therefore, it has to be a very serious attempt to get an advantage. What I see as the strategy for Fabiano, he's trying to get away from this more or less well-known positions. So he tries to play a fresher position, and the position where the sides are colliding, and that's where his strength lies. So I think that's a very good practical decision for white, for his team to start paying attention to this line.
Right.
Well, Levon, I agree with you in principle, but what do you make of the fact that Fabiano is currently down 30 minutes on the clock? It seems more so that he's kind of out of his element at the time being.
My feeling is that because Magnus is generally a player who likes to play all kinds of openings, so the probability of Magnus going for Chelyabinsk in the last game was not that high. I thought he would play something else, some other idea.
Right.
So therefore, maybe that's what the team has missed. They're not that confident. So that's why Fabiano is thinking right now.
Well, given your comments there and what we all kind of mostly expect from Magnus, him being kind of a creature of variety, usually not somebody who wants to be pinned down. Have you been surprised, speaking on a general level, at Magnus's discipline in this match, his commitment to the Sicilian?
It's very surprising. in his previous matches and also in tournaments, he tends to do something that Karpov used to do in analysis, going from the worst moves that he suggests to better ones.
Right.
So, yeah, look at the match with Anand. He started with some other opening that he didn't repeat once. So
Right.
that's what the general feel was.
Interesting.
That's very interesting. That I think Magnus understands that in order to still dominate, because he's one of the most dominating players in history, who was not dominating in the last years, he understands that he needs to change, maybe become more stable with his opening choices. So I guess that's my explanation.
Fascinating. Let's talk a little bit about the live position here, Levon. After queen to c7, you can kind of take the reins. What move do you expect Fabiano to play here when he does come out of his think? What move would you play?
I'm interested if a4 is a move.
Okay.
So something like bishop e7, and most likely I need to protect this pawn, and I don't know what's happening in here. I'm just trying to understand if black will play a5 or not, but I reckon black will not care about that. Then he'll play something like e4. What I'm basically trying to do, just trying to find a refuge for the king, because I don't feel that white's king is that comfortable on the king's side.
Yeah, Robert's been talking about that.
The queen is way too far from the theater of action.
Right.
On b4.
And so are you claiming that with the pawn majority, you can just go pawn to b3 to protect c4 and just all is well after a move like rook c8, for example?
That's what I'm kind of questioning. I'm not sure about this, because this looks scary for white, I have to admit.
Is that because of ideas like, just bishop f6 and knight d3 and just the all-in kind of double-edged approach here?
Yeah. Well, other than that, we obviously have a natural play. Bishop e2 is the most natural move. We're trying to stop black from ever castling. And then I don't know if e4 is a move. It looks very tempting to just get rid of this knight g6 problem. Because other way for black, of course, is to play bishop g4. But I'm not sure if black benefits from this exchange, or if white plays f3. This kind of a move is I'm not so sure it's in Magnus's style.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I mentioned that move earlier because I wasn't certain either if playing a move like bishop g4 is particularly helpful for black, because it does make f5, f4 come more quickly, but at the same time, if there's a bishop capture on g4, perhaps the white h-pawn can at some point push itself to h5 as well.
And
right?
without the light square bishop, you might argue that maybe white is a little bit safer if he did indeed choose to castle long, right? Possibly.
Yeah, because what basically is white is planning to do is probably castle. And if you play something like this, then probably try to break through with c5 at some point.
Aha.
Right.
For example, takes and queen d7, something like d6.
Yikes.
Just take advantage of your knight not being too active at the moment.
I think that's a really instructive point, because Robert and I have been highlighting, obviously, kind of the critical theme for white in this structure is, if and when white gets c5, is it devastating to black, or is black ready for it? And so you're saying...
Well, I don't think it is, because black can play knight d7, but that's something like queen a4, just keeping the grip. And it's kind of unlikely that black will castle short.
Right.
Because this h6, h7, the pawn on h7 might be annoying. Although, with those positions in this opening, you never know what's going on. For example, c6, knight f6 could be reasonably fine for black. Or even better.
It looks very double-edged, Levon, and I guess that leads me to wonder, in a position like this, where Magnus is currently up, almost 40 minutes on the clock, the World Championship is on the line, do you expect Magnus to sort of take some risk and try to play for a win in this classical game, or do you think he'd be happy just to equalize and make a draw and head into the tiebreaks? What's his mentality like, do you think?
Well, I think generally people agree that Magnus should be a favorite in the rapid time control.
Right.
So, therefore, making a draw for him would be a desirable result. But at the same time, he understands that he cannot just sit back and watch. So he has to be active and enterprising. Because Fabiano is definitely going to go all in this game.
Well, on that note of the mentality, and you just mentioned the tie breaks, we've had varying opinions. Obviously, we've had guests like Hikaru and Maxime on the show. And what are your thoughts on just how big of a favorite Magnus might be if we did go to a tiebreaker?
I would say maybe something like 60-40.
Okay.
But, I mean, he's definitely not guaranteed to win because, I mean, generally I would think if this was a recurring match and they had to play, for example, 10 rapid games, then probably Magnus is a huge favorite.
Right.
But these are just 4 games and very tense situation. And also the fact that you feel that you're a favorite can play tricks with you.
Right. That's a good point. We have had a move now, Levon. Fabiano, just kind of surprising. Maybe he plays G3 because he wants to be flexible. He wants to overprotect the pawn and then choose between your idea of A4 or just playing Bishop E2.
Magnus responded immediately with
Bishop E7 has been played. So now this is our live position. What do you think?
Yeah, that's very logical. I mean, because probably Fabiano spent a long time thinking, will I be able to play without G3? Will this pawn be hanging? Or will I have C5 answering it? Or do I need those ideas with Bishop H3 or Knight A4 immediately? Because Knight A4 is another interesting idea. Just for example, one move before, it would make more sense to play Knight A4 and then Knight B6, Queen A4 check, just to compromise Black's king.
So what line? Sorry, what line are you saying? Go ahead and make the moves. I missed that. What were you saying?
Yeah, what I meant was this would make sense because here, for example, a check would kind of be unpleasant.
Okay.
Right.
So after G3, Bishop E7, this could also make some sense. In this position, the problem is if you are not so familiar with it, if you haven't analyzed it, then it's very easy to go wrong.
Right.
As you've seen with me trying to play A4, A5.
Well, speaking of going wrong, and I was thinking your move E4 makes so much sense, but I think you made a great point about maybe Max doesn't want to take the risks. Is Knight of Fate to D7 just a sort of a more solid approach that doesn't get him in any sort of commitment?
Definitely he can do that. But at the same time, it's kind of chicken-like.
I knew you were going to say that.
Not because you offered it, Robert. I respect you immensely, but not for your chess, but for your understanding of basketball. But generally, I think if you are able to start some kind of a warfare straight away with E4, you don't really want to play Knight F8, Knight D7, and then Knight F6, Knight G4. It's a bit too slow. I mean, I would rather expect Magnus to play Bishop D7, F5, and then E4, something like that, to have the structure. Although, it all depends if E4 pawn is actually under any risk.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I was not playing E4 at all, actually. I was just retreating my knight to start with. And I really hope Magnus doesn't now that you sort of wrecked me with your commentary.
Well, the fans in chat are loving the commentary, Levon, and let's remind everybody real quick who's joining us here. Grandmaster Levon Aronian, #1 in Armenia, also #1 in your hearts, many people's chess hearts.
But he's a Celtics fan, so I can't associate.
He is a Celtics fan. We won't hold that against him for today. But let's remind everybody too what you're doing at the end of the week, because you're competing in the Speed Chess Championship on Saturday actually against Hikaru Nakamura, and we're going to have you for a little bit here and lots of chess to discuss. But how do you feel you're preparing as you head into this match with Nakamura, the real world championship, Hikaru Nakamura versus Levon Aronian? Are you ready for this match?
Well, don't expect 11 draws. That's what
Okay,
I'm
I'll tell you.
saying.
That's great. We won't expect 11 draws. All right. But you've obviously had a great year here in the SCC, and this the year you go all the way. Are you ready?
Absolutely. I
All
mean,
right.
I had such a ridiculous year over the board, so I have to make it up on the internet. Yes.
Well, we're excited to have you play. Looking forward on Saturday. But okay, so I had a general question. Now we're waiting again for some moves. Given that you have so much experience against both of these guys, Magnus and Fabiano, what has been your thoughts on who's been in better form in this match? I know that the results kind of speak for themselves. I mean, we've had a lot of draws despite maybe some missed opportunities for both sides. But if you were to give us your general picture, we only get to have you here for this game and maybe the tiebreakers if we get that. I know we're excited. So secretly, fans, you might root for the tiebreaker just so we get Levon back.
I'm rooting for not tiebreakers, so I don't get
Yeah, so
body
Levon
slammed
doesn't
by-
roast you. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. But what have been your thoughts on the match so far, Levon? Speaking generally, who's been in better form? Have you been surprised that Magnus maybe didn't convert in game one? What have been your thoughts so far?
I think the match got much better in a later stage. I
Okay.
think in the start, it was clear that the first game was the most dangerous for Fabiano.
Mhm.
I mean, I haven't played World Championship matches, but this is generally what the feeling is. If you manage to keep the pressure of the first game, and then you have chances. And Fabiano did. I mean, he was in great danger, and he managed to stay alert and with some luck, but it doesn't really matter.
Right.
He managed to make a draw. So far, the match, I had this strange feeling that because I thought that Magnus is playing very little this year to prepare, just to work a lot on his openings. But so far, it seems that Fabiano is better prepared when it comes to openings. I mean, you see with Black, he didn't have a slight problem out of any
Right.
openings. And
Right.
generally, I would think that Magnus would be preparing in sidelines. He will be working and trying to find some weird kind of ideas, which he didn't. So, yeah, that's the strange feel that I'm not so sure that Magnus is so well prepared for this match.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, this game it seems like
Yeah.
he is very well prepared because after F3 was played by Fabiano, Magnus played Knight of Fate immediately. So
And I was just going to say, I mean, I can't wait to get Levon's just thoughts on F3 and Knight F8. Magnus playing super quickly right now. Maybe he's feeling his edge on the clock, right? But what are your thoughts on this move F3? And what do you think Fabiano's plan is after Knight F8, Levon?
I think that Fabiano spent all this time thinking that how can he counteract the plan of Black's quick activation with E4.
Okay.
And so he decided that he'll stop it. But Knight F8 come as a surprise. I thought that Black would be trying to play something like that, Bishop B7, and then to play with F5. Although I understand the reluctance to do that, because once White plays F4, it might turn into something very, very stagnant, very passive.
Right.
At some point, White will put the bishop on E2. So, could be that Magnus is better familiar with this line, and he has analyzed the subtleties. So, it now it looks exactly like a knight of bishop E3,
Right.
where the H5 line actually, one of Hikaru's favorites.
Yeah. Well, we had Hikaru on earlier, and he highlighted that not only his experience in the line, as you said, one of his favorites, but he highlighted that it's a structure Fabiano knows very well, right? Normally in a Najdorf and has played many times as white. So, so you said that F3 was played maybe in concern of E4. Just want to highlight that point for the fans that Levon was highlighting this threat of E4, and then maybe the knight comes into E5, and so I assume F3 would have just met E4 with F4, right, Levon? Just
No,
stopping
free
that
pawn.
idea. Oh, huh.
Yeah.
A pawn.
Yeah, that
Or
as
a pawn.
well.
My turn
I
to,
think, yeah, both options are.
yeah, I was gonna say
Very
my
good
turn to
for
get
white.
roasted with my first blunder of the day. But okay, so Knight of 8 is played, and so
Yeah,
what
now
do you
it's
think?
an interesting position. Now we
Yeah.
have to understand what white can do. What could be his plan? Because black seems to be planning to put a knight on d7 and then perhaps play bishop g6, some kind of a waiting move, and then maybe play with f5 or without f5.
And I guess, my thoughts, Levon, is that, well, maybe white's going to castle queenside, play bishop e2, and play for potentially g4.
Oh, interesting. Okay, maybe.
Mhm. But once you castle queenside, then your queen is so strange. You'll get into a lot of trouble once b5 is played.
I agree.
Right.
So that's my worry. And the problem is, of the position generally, I think, is a c4 pawn. You can't really protect it comfortably. Otherwise, you would exchange the bishops, or try to play for g4. Then white just would have a overwhelming advantage. But this rook c8 and b3, b5 is always there.
So maybe knight a4, your idea, knight a4 to b6, just to try to protect it a little bit more tactically.
Let me highlight that point
Yep.
for everybody, just so everyone sees what Levon was saying. With this rook coming to c8, b3 and b5 is possible because the pawn is pinned to a now undefended knight on c3. So that's a tactic Levon was highlighting. But okay, so back to Robert's point. Do you think we might see knight a4, Levon?
Knight a4 is, I also think it's kind of a chicken move, because knight is already knight is already on d7, see? I mean, you're just going to exchange your
Right.
only difference maker. Because
Right.
the difference maker in the position is your knight, that black has spent so much time to bring his horsey into the game, and you're just there. So what I'm thinking is, just wondering if white should actually just kind of forget it and just get the king on b2. I know
Interesting.
it looks a bit risky,
Yeah, I mean, now black
But,
can probably castle kingside, right? Just now we're playing opposite side.
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
board.
yeah. And then maybe like play knight e4 at some point. Well, it doesn't look healthy. Yeah, it's one of those moves that you would play if you're not an e4 player. So another move which looks kind of logical is a4.
You love this move.
You highlighted this before, and so your main idea is it to prevent b5, or you just want to over-control the strength of a square like b6?
My main idea that is, I'm worried about my lady,
Okay.
and if I don't put the pawn on a5, I kind of feel that something is in the air, something is coming. Once I play a5, I'm sure that queen on b4 is safe.
Okay.
But yeah, something like this, knight d7, like a5. Now if you're playing knight c5, then I can meet it with rook d1, queen a3, b4. Although I'm not so sure I need b4.
Just highlighting that line there for the fans. Yeah, interesting.
Although actually,
Yeah.
if you move your rook away, sometimes I guess you can't win your a5 pawn. I was trying to go bishop d8 and chop off the a5.
Yeah,
pawn.
that's another problem. I think we need to think and try to find any other plans for white here. I
Okay.
mean, what could white do?
Is it? I was thinking that when I first saw f3, even though maybe dubious, but is it possible that I can tuck my king on f2 and then bring the h rook over to c1 with the idea that I could focus now fully on the queen side, or is that just going to be too risky to black's eventual f5 and f4 with the king sitting there?
Yeah, I'm thinking, it's just a bit too slow
Okay.
because you're not really creating anything yet in the queen side.
Right.
So as long as black can just reshuffle the pieces and play f5, then the king. I don't think king belongs to the king side.
Right.
White's king belongs to the king side after that.
Yeah.
Because it just looks too fast. F5, F4, and then the G3 is hanging, and now you have a problem on your hand. You have to
Right.
you have to make real decisions, which are not ideal for a 12th game, I guess.
Right.
The overtime.
Right.
And I think Levon would call this too chicken movie. But if you go knight e4, queen d2, and try to kind of reroute your pieces, knight e4, I was saying.
Oops.
Um,
Knight
but
e4.
Yeah, if you try to play like this, that feels way too chicken.
Well, even you can see it, Robert.
I think we're gonna need to get Levon his own chicken emote. Levon, remind everybody you can follow Levon on Twitter at Lev Aronian right there. He's one of the most exciting and interesting personalities in chess. He's a lot of fun, and if you're in the world of chess social media, he's definitely a worthy follow. And you're jokes aside, people love using the emote. We've got your face as a thing people can kind of spam if they're subscribers, like Levon Hype. But I think we'll get you a chicken emote, maybe. I love it.
Ah, beautiful. I thought it's reserved for Robert.
Yeah. Well, by the way, we joked. We knew that because you're quite the trash talker. I've always said that, and we knew this would be fun today. So thanks for
The
being
problem
here.
is I have to be professional. So normally we go back and forth, but right now I can't
Right.
I can't say what's on my mind.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's
He's just mad I didn't visit him
maybe
when
it's
I
a
was
good
in
thing.
Armenia.
It's good to have a one-way street where Lev gets to roast us, and we just have to take it on the chin. But
Yeah,
okay.
it's acceptable for me. I like it.
Yeah, it is. How's Ponchik? Are you with Ponchik today or?
Yes, he's just here. He's sleeping. I mean, he was actually dreaming of things.
Lev, regardless of Robert's chicken moves, he's now predicted the last two. We've now seen knight f8, and Fabiano has just played knight e4. So what is going on here?
I think he's worried, so he's making chicken moves.
Well, I mean, I would be worried if I were him too, because look at the time situation, right?
Yeah.
I guess Levon,
Well-
on a semi-serious note here, how serious is the clock situation right now with 44 minutes approximately left for Fabiano for 21 moves? Like, is he really getting into time trouble, would you say, at this point?
It's kind of annoying tendency because the position is still not clarified. 94 is kind of a move that you're asking your opponent, look, just clarify the position so I can play and use the time that I have. It's one of those things you don't want to do against Magnus because he's not very forgiving.
Well,
when
I
it
was just
comes
going to say that. Do you feel like that's a tendency? I know these are your peers, and obviously you compete against them, but as much as you'll share about their personality, I mean, do you feel like that's a tendency that Fabiano has? People talked a lot about this move, bishop takes f3, that he played in game 9 as kind of a bailout move, and maybe almost got himself in trouble. Magnus unable to get anything with the h4 h5 plan, but do you think Fabiano has a tendency to want to clarify the position sometimes if he's getting nervous or maybe not sure about his preparation?
Not necessarily. I think that's a trend of every good player.
Okay.
They understand that they have to trade some things, and they just wanna get the picture of what's going to happen. So Magnus does that all the time, and Kramnik sometimes overdoes it. But 94 is actually an interesting move. Coming back to the game.
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
94.
Yes, I know. No, the thing is that 94 queen d2 is truly chicken. But 94 with idea of bishop d3 and then trying to play rook c1 and keep your king in the center, that's not very chicken.
Okay.
Because one of the ideas of the knight 94 is, I mean, along with the line you just gave, Lev, is that white is accelerating the potential of c5 here, right? I mean, in some lines.
I think he can forget about c5 by this
Okay, is
point.
that because
I
knight
mean, the
d7
knight
is
on
coming?
d7, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just played.
Oh, and knight d7 was just played by Magnus. Okay, so there we go.
Oh, interesting. He's playing really, really quickly.
Yeah.
Trying
Let's
to
go with your
play on time.
line. Bishop d3. I mean, obviously there's a potential loose bishop here, so maybe we'll expect
Bishop
him to
d3
move.
was just played.
Okay, bishop d3 was played, and now I'm guessing Magnus plays bishop g6 with the threat of f5. But what are your thoughts
He
here,
might
Lev?
castle first. I don't know if he's worried about giving up this bishop, but
You know what might sound like an absurd idea, but what if I do something like this? I know it doesn't look too healthy, but if
You
you
want the
take to the
c5
bishop,
square?
then just g6, f5, bishop to f6, and you know, as long as this doesn't allow a long castle for white, then this could be a good idea. Just to
And long castles might be
b5.
kind of dangerous, either rook c8 or b5 first, right?
Mm-hmm. But
Okay.
like in the long run, I mean,
Right.
if white gets prepared and, for example, brings his rook somewhere on c2 or something, but this could be possible. But probably Magnus is going to get ambitious here. I mean, it's unlikely that he'll take on e4.
Well, Levon, I was actually trying to do something similar. So if I castle right away, and you try knight f6 check, I'll take with my knight, and after bishop takes a5, it's going to go e4. But I wasn't sure. And this is not a chicken move, right? We can agree on that?
No. No, it's just a bad move.
Just a plain old-fashioned bad move, the best kind.
Yeah, chickens are careful when it comes to their little ones.
Okay. But you could do this line and then play Levon's idea with g6 as well. But you may actually
No,
not
but
even...
the knight on f6.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Wait, can you actually explain what's wrong with e4 exactly?
All right. What if I just castle?
And if I want to just play g6?
Okay, bishop e4. It's a free pawn, they say, huh?
Now I'm not getting my bishop to f6 like I wanted. Maybe I should have started with rook e8, but...
Yeah, but at least now we know your idea. Your idea was an hopeful trade here. You wanted some sort of positional sacrifice, maybe lodge the bishop
rook
here.
E8,
But
try to get the pawn
right,
back.
but Levon is too good.
Yeah, he's way too good.
He just castles.
And he's just like kind of in my head right now.
Right, he's in your head, man. He's like, like Kyrie Irving. With by the way, how are the Celtics doing this year? What you want to give an opinion on that?
Oh,
What do they
great!
Need
I love watching them now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're enjoying. They're going to be third place in the Eastern Conference.
Absolutely.
I'm glad.
Well, okay,
but I like the fact they're not worried at all. So that's good.
Yeah, it's true. And they've got experience now. They're no longer questioned if they get into the East whether they can go all the way, right? LeBron's gone, and they got the experience. Plus, Hayward's back.
Yeah.
I'm bullish on the Celtics, if you can't tell.
Yeah,
and
but
they
the
know
Raptors are better.
they're
And the
not that
Sixers.
good as they think they are. That's
Right.
an important thought
Right.
to understand that you have to work harder.
Right. You got to be hungry and humble, right? Yeah,
They're well coached as well.
they are.
But so I like your move, Danny. Bishop g6.
Okay.
I can't believe I'm saying that, but I like it.
Well, I was just thinking that it goes back to the f5 idea. I mean, but Levon's idea of taking here and then just sitting simply.
Well, I thought you'd take on e4 back with the pawn, perhaps. I don't know if that just open up the.
Yeah, that's what I think is critical.
Okay.
And now, will I benefit in any way if I play knight f6, knight g4, or it's just doesn't make any sense? This I don't know.
Yeah, well, after knight f6, I'll castle queenside, right, and just ask you what your knight's
Yeah.
doing over there.
Yeah, maybe knight f6 is not a good move.
Okay.
Yeah, this could be interesting, but probably Magnus is going to spend some time here because this looks like a
Critical moment.
critical moment in the
Yep.
game.
Well, in anticipation for that, and he may be spending some time, I think, Levon, if you're willing to stay with us, we might take a very quick break and then come right back with more thoughts here. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. Everyone, if you're just tuning in, thanks for being here. Again, we have a wonderful guest, Grandmaster Levon Aronian. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be back in just a few minutes. And we are back here, Game 12 for the 2018 World Chess Championship. International Master Danny Wrench alongside Grandmaster Robert Hess and get your hands off that bagel.
No.
Get your hands off that bagel. That's a prop. Remind people to use your favorite bagel emote. How many bagels could you eat in a day, by the way?
In one day?
Too many.
Like New York bagels?
Yeah, too many.
Do I have to have lox and schmear on them, or just
lox
a
and
bagel?
schmear, whatever. You do the whole thing. But with us and patiently waiting right now as we stop the shenanigans is Grandmaster Levon Aronian. He is the man of the hour. And I'm sorry, the chicken dancing around Robert is my favorite thing. We now have a chicken dancing around the screen, Lev, just for you, just so you know. It's a great show. But we're gonna dive back in here. Robert and Lev have been analyzing in a hurry here off camera, so let's give their thoughts. You guys are kind of have opposing plans here, or are you guys aligning now your plans? What you think Black should do?
Well, I think that Levon is going to supersede any plan I come up with, so I'm going to defer to him for the moment.
Well, Lev, so what do you think Magnus is going to be calculating here? You said you anticipate he'll take a while. Is it mainly about the decision to take e4 or not? Or is there something else that you feel is critical about Black's approach here in terms of the decision he might make?
I think what's really critical is to understand the next 5 moves, to understand where White King is going, understand where his rooks are going to be placed, and is he going to try to play quickly with b4 somehow, or is just too slow? I think these are the thoughts that Magnus has now.
Okay.
And then he has to plan accordingly. So what we were discussing with Robert was, can Black try to play bishop g6? And in case White does something like rook h2, for example, trying to bring the rook to c2, and then long castle, maybe something like f5, knight g5, and even take. And here, e4 looks interesting, knight c5 looks interesting. Generally, you don't really want to give your bishop away, but here it might be working nicely because Black has some time that he can spend. For example, bishop c2, then castle, and then try to play with e4 quickly.
And importantly, White's not getting pawn b4 in anytime soon, because if you move the queen, Black can always play a5 himself just to stop that idea. And that knight at c5 is a great piece, of course.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, basically, Black's dream is to play queen f7, f4 at some point, just to put this g5 bishop in a solitary confinement.
So, do you feel like this is? Am I reading into your tone too much to say that you feel like Magnus is okay here as Black and maybe going to have decent chances to play for 2 results here? I mean, a draw may not be the only thing on his mind in the kind of dynamic position he's getting.
I think you can't really sit there and say, "Oh, let's make a draw," because you look at the position, it doesn't look anything like draw. Right. So that makes me very, very happy. So I'm thinking that he is basically now spending his time understanding, should he play bishop h7, bishop g6, or should he play g6? So more or less those thoughts. G6 connected with bishop e4 at some point.
Right.
Because Black is not in a rush yet. In those kind of positions, I mean, generally, neithers. Black tends to play g6 and then bishop f8. Taking on e4 and playing bishop h6. Because King will be very, very comfortable in e7.
Right.
So this could be also one of the ideas for the game, because the bishop on e7 is a bit too passive at the moment.
Well, so what about, how does White add clarity to the position here? You highlighted that the king is kind of forever in no man's land here. Do you really like this idea of rook h2? That way you keep the option open, and you feel like castle's kingside is just out of the question now.
Speaking of castle's kingside, Magnus just played it.
Oh, Magnus has moved. He's,
he's
laughing in the face of danger about this bishop here.
Hi, Levon. I think castle kingside was something I might have mentioned.
You have predicted the last several moves in a row, but that may not be a good thing.
Yeah, that
for
might be a
Magnus.
very bad
I'm not
thing.
sure that it's a good thing.
Sorry, Magnus.
No. But
No,
what do you think, Lev?
I think it's a reasonable move. He understands that there's no way White has the time to play G4 anytime soon because his king is compromised. So there's no way White is going to easily lone castle as well. So he's basically getting ready to, maybe play a quick rook fc8 and then b5 just to open up the position.
Okay, so
And,
does White need to add clarity here? You said, does White need to go for something like the bishop pair just so you can hang your hat on some long-term edge, or are you kind of past the point of no return? You gotta play just as sharp. Maybe rook h2, rook c2. What do you anticipate?
well,
here?
I think I don't know. I'm a bit worried if Black can play b5. That's the issue.
And d5
If
is
this
hanging.
works for Black, yeah, then you can't do this. Then you'll be slightly worse with White immediately.
That looks good.
That's a great shot, a great line that we didn't highlight before. That the knight coming to f6 undermines the d5 pawn, just to show everybody that could be real bad. Okay, so that's out of the question then.
So So I'm guessing any.
Rook h2.
We have liftoff. The elevator. The rook is on the lift.
Yeah, but I don't like this rook h2 anymore, honestly speaking.
Yeah.
Because now if Black goes bishop g6, then rook h2 doesn't work. I just play f5. Knight g5 takes, and then knight c5 is extremely annoying. I'll just show it, for example. See, then the bishop doesn't have good squares.
Yeah, that.
So what I'm guessing his plan is to play long castle and meet b5 with something like rook c2.
Wow, gonna get sharp.
Well, if you long castle, can we still go for these f5 ideas with this rook on h2? I mean, I just don't like the rook being there right now.
Yeah, f5 looks reasonable.
Because I mean, knight g5 you're gonna play almost. Oh, maybe you won't, but it looks like that's the move to play. I guess.
If you don't play it, then it's clear that Black's play has been very logical and yours wasn't.
Right.
This is kind of a psychological thing that is difficult to accept sometimes, when you just have to play knight c3, and then in your mind you kind of bring back the position where the knight was on c3, and you went knight e4, knight c3 back.
Right.
Although it might be totally fine for White, but this is the disadvantage the humans have compared to computers. That computers immediately look at the position, forgetting about the past, while we're still emotionally subjective to those things.
Right. Yeah, and for the record, I don't really like it for White because you've allowed Black to get f5. Now e4 can even come in as like a pawn sacrifice, and just bring the knight to e5. It seems like Black is the one having all the fun in a position like that.
Yeah, it looks like it. But let's think, because definitely Fabiano has a plan here. And it must be a cunning one.
Can he... I was going to ask if g4 is a move, but that doesn't look very good, so I don't want to play it. What is his idea?
Well, Black hasn't played bishop g6 yet, so currently it's still on Magnus in this position, just to just to note the live position. But yeah, if we're looking at bishop g6 and then...
I mean, honestly,
wondering what the idea is.
Honestly, because Lev said the white rook on c2 prevents the bishop from retreating, maybe rook fc8 is also a move instead of bishop g6 right away, because it's sort of the same idea. But if we play rook fc8, I think we're provoking rook c2 here, and after rook c2, then I can play bishop g6, and now the rook's on the wrong square with the ideas we were talking about.
Here.
Okay. But maybe that nuance isn't necessary at all.
Is it possible now that the knight isn't on c3, maybe we're less worried about playing b3, Lev, just because now there's no tactic with the knight hanging? So maybe you can overprotect things here.
Yeah, but then you have to calculate a5, a4 ideas. Although they give away some squares, but you might be very fast to open up the line for your rook. Although I'm really not thinking that Black will play Rook FC8. Rook FC8 is kind of a move that you're already showing your plans.
Yeah.
Right.
You're immediately saying, okay, I'm not going to play with F5 most likely.
Yeah, bishop g6 kind
And
of keeps the mystery alive, right?
That's true. After bishop g6, if you castle, you can always play rook c. Actually, that's a very instructive point, Lev. That's a very good point.
so I'm guessing bishop g6 will follow. And then g4, I would like to play g4 because I don't like allowing my opponents to be active. But will this all just get destroyed? I mean, I'm a bit scared about some rook c8, and then you'll have to play some rook c1 probably.
Well, rook c8, maybe then you take on h5.
Well, I was going to say, is there also an idea that you have g5 in some positions to try to slow down f5 if you're worried about that? Maybe that's just a bad position.
Yes, that's a very good idea. Yeah, g5 looks very healthy.
And like on a move like rook c8, if you play g5, I mean, you're not actually worried about this transition here because you'll take back with the pawn, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get a good position. So
maybe,
this could be Fabiano's cunning plan.
So maybe rook f8 stops g4 as well. So I agree with you that it's showing your hand, but if g4 is a legitimate idea, then rook f8 at least stops g4 for the time being, and I can continue then with my plan with bishop g6 and f5. Because you're forced white to show his hand as well, right? Because rook c2 is not necessarily the move you want to play if you would like to try for g4 or something a little more flexible. So we're kind of both showing our hands. But maybe it's advantageous to black, though I'm obviously not positive about that.
But then you see, I mean, you have to watch for knight f6 check now once your rook is on c8.
That's true.
So
now bishop g6.
Yeah. Try for g4 again, I guess.
Yeah, could be the case. Yeah, still this g5 idea is there in the air.
Yeah, it's pretty annoying, honestly. Yeah, I don't have a solution. Maybe knight f6, I guess, is a possibility, but I don't love it.
Well, we always have this tactical idea. For example, bishop g6, g4, then something like takes, and then takes and some b5, knight f6. But I guess it's too slow. It's a bit too naive because white will eventually get g5 in. So, but somehow we can work around this idea.
Yeah, that's a nice idea. And the point of everyone there, Lev wants the knight on f6 because it makes b5 so much stronger, undermining the protection of this pawn. So that's a tactic that black is striving for.
Yeah, I mean, maybe
Another thing that people do is the knight or flares. Sometimes they do something like this, so that looks a bit ridiculous, but at times it works. Although here I'm not obliged to take on g6, and I'll just play bishop e2 and keep the, keep this bishop on f6 passive.
Yeah. Well, Lev, I have a question both for myself and mainly for the viewers. How do you decide which rook you'd want to put on c8 in this position? Because rook a-c8 and rook f8 are both legitimate possibilities here, and maybe rook a-c8 is a little bit better in the sense that if black gets, white does go g4, then f5 can be the response because the rook's on f8. So how would you determine which rook move is the right one?
I think you cannot have general principles when you make this decision. It has to be purely calculation.
And that's good advice by itself, right? That you can't really just make a general principle about a mysterious rook move. There has to be a concrete reason,
because both. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Yep.
Because both moves look very interesting. It looks like this is the right move.
Right.
Right.
And I was just going to say because you might decide, like you're saying, in concrete lines that you want to keep the rook on f8 because you're calculating concrete variations where you're getting f5 or consistently the f file comes open, or likewise you decide that the rook here you think is going to be met by b3 and maybe you want the rook on the a file. And I'm just trying to add maybe some elements for the fans to kind of answer those questions. As you said, it needs to be concrete.
And you're absolutely right, because a5 is one, b5 is another idea where if you sacrifice a pawn, having the open a file, or having rooks in C8 and B8 is advantageous compared to C8 and F8. So
I think it's an interesting question, Lev, because I think a lot of people look at high-level grandmaster games, including myself, and I'm like, I didn't understand that rook move, right. So how do you, I think that was a good point. That really it's concrete calculation as much as, you know, you're trying to properly
Yeah.
anticipate not just where you want the rooks now, but what lines you expect to become open, right? You've really got to go with the variations you think are going to happen.
I'm wondering one thing from in this position.
Yep.
I mean, and I want to ask you guys because this looks kind of risky. What happens if I just, for example, do something like this? Well, let's roughly say that this all has been forced and
Okay.
you just get this position. So I'm just trying to undermine the weakness of White's king and just
Uh-huh.
by exchanging a couple of pieces and then
Right.
playing Queen D8 at some point.
Oh yeah. Okay.
What do you guys feel?
As someone who's played the Najdorf, albeit obviously not nearly as successfully as players like Fabiano on the white side of an English attack, this position scares me a little bit for white because I feel like I want to put the king here. I want to get the king out of the way so that I can, do the things that you would want to do naturally in this structure. And because I can't do that safely, I've extended the c pawn, right? The pawn's not on c2 as it might be in a normal Najdorf, or at least an English attack.
Yeah.
It worries me here because it does seem like white has more difficult decisions to deal with the king than black faces on the g file. That's just my first instinct.
although then it just shows how cunning, to use Levon's word, rook h2 was, because a move like king d2 followed by rook g1, rook g2 kind of stuff comes pretty quickly.
Interesting.
So that's how we explain Magnus's thinking. He's trying to find the best move that will allow him to play easier. It doesn't necessarily have to be a good move, but it has to be a move that gives him the advantage of having a plan.
And he went rook ac8 just now, like as you were
Interesting.
saying that right
Okay.
there, he went rook ac8.
And maybe this is his idea, Levon. I mean, maybe there's a point where he really does anticipate that at some point f5 is going to happen, and I do want to keep the rook over here for that.
Yeah, and to Levon's earlier point, I guess now bishop takes like if black got another move, bishop takes e4 would probably be a pretty good one because that bishop on d3 is very committed to the c4 pawn, which means that the knight comes to f6 and the g4 quite quickly as well. So it's sort of an interesting dynamic at play here with how white is going to protect this c pawn because every move has a concession. We talked about rook c2 takes the bishop square in some of these lines, bishop g6 and f5. B3 weakens the squares on the queen side.
But I was going to highlight B3 seems more logical to me now that I'm no longer as afraid of A5 and A4. Is that possible? I mean, if A5 is played, I come back to my comfy English attack kind of set up with the queen and bishop. Doesn't seem as dangerous here as A4 before with the rook still on the file. Is that what are your thoughts on that, Lev?
I'm guessing that B3 is equals the same like rook c1. You're basically saying, I'm not going to bring my king to c1, most likely.
Right.
So
Giving
if you're
up on
doing
castle
that-
pawn.
Yeah, if you're doing that, you might as well just commit with rook c1, rook c3 at some point. Just play rook c1, and then maybe you'll get this rook c3, rook b3 in future. I mean, not foreseeable future, but you never know. And yeah, I guess this is what will happen because rook c2 allows black to have an easy plan.
And that plan again is your the bishop g6 f5.
Yes.
Yep.
So I wonder if white after rook c1, if black can start being a hooligan at some point. This is what Tal used to say. Just to try to play b5 quickly somehow. With queen b8 and b5 just trying just to clarify the position in his own favor, just to make the d5 pawn weak.
Yeah, but b5 I guess is the big drawback that after pawn takes queen b8, there's always rook c6 ideas, which look sort of unfriendly.
Yeah. I was more thinking about queen b7, but then probably this is too early for this kind of things.
So if rook c6 anyway?
Yeah, I think that's what he's
Yeah.
saying. It's too
Oh,
early.
Yeah, I
sorry.
guess.
Yeah.
But
No.
it's an interesting idea for black, certainly a winning chance. And again, one practical thing to remember, even if it doesn't work now, everyone, is that as these positions start to open up on both sides of the board, the long-term issue of the king just continues to be one that white has to worry about if the position opens up. So it's an interesting idea.
And I know I was being bullish and saying that I like black's position and Magnus's time advantage, but I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. How can black not be better here? You're ahead in development. Your king is safe. You can have all these ideas with bishop g6 and f5. Like, am I just misevaluating this position that black's slightly better, or?
I think the main issue here with black's position is that his pieces might look active, but this pawn on c4, unlike any other Najdorf, stops you from generating the counterplay on queenside.
Right.
So you don't get to play c4 in Najdorf. It's very, very rare. And here you already have it. And it's stopping all black's plans with b5, just transferring the knight somewhere. So other than that, I mean, if we just had pawn on c2 and pawn on b5, this would be almost winning for black.
Right.
Najdorf-wise.
Right, that makes total sense. I agree.
Right.
I guess I'm throwing a little, instead of just the objective evaluation, I'm also throwing the practical element of that Fabiano's down so much time and this position is very complicated, and having 39 minutes left for 19 moves in a position like this is very difficult, right? Because we've talked about many ideas for black with bishop g6, pawn f5, and then deciding if I want to play for e4, f4, or play for b5. I don't see the same kind of ideas from white's perspective. I mean, we talk about playing for g4, but it feels way less concrete. It feels more like a hopeful, wishful thinking than it does a legitimate, strengthening plan, I guess.
But at the same time, let's take into account that it's not easy for black to have a plan.
Right.
He can never play b5, most likely, as we just witnessed it. And moving the bishop away will allow g4, g5, which is a very unpleasant grip over black's position. I mean, generally, in Najdorf, once white manages to restrain this bishop on e7, then it's very tough for black to play. So you can't allow that. You don't have b5. So what's going to be your plan? Your only plan is probably to play with, try to play with f5 at some point.
Yeah.
This idea that you were highlighting, I mean, the more we look at the position, the more, regardless of what white does here, it seems like an idea that we may be getting into some variation that occurs like this, right? This would certainly be the most double-edged way for Magnus to try to take advantage of Fabiano's king in the center.
Yeah, this looks kind of logical.
Yep.
But at the same time, I mean, these exchanges also don't really change the dynamic. I mean, black gets some active ideas, but the core of the position, the control over e4 square, is still in white's hands.
Right. Well, as we wait
And
here for
I don't think Magnus. Sorry.
What was that, Lev?
I don't think Magnus is kind of a player that likes to give his opponent such advantages.
Right.
So I don't think he will allow white to play g4 in this position. Maybe he'll do something, something like b6, and then try to maybe play queen d8, bishop g6, where this g4 idea is not valid anymore.
I guess though I'm concerned that let's say rook c1, as we were talking about. If you can't play b6, or you can, but then you have to worry about knight f6 check ideas, right? That's
now that the pawn is overprotected, you might have. Although again,
yes.
Levon's idea is b5. I guess it just
no,
doesn't.
your
work.
rook's not.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Okay.
So I get the feeling that bishop g6, like after rook c1, bishop g6, and g4, some kind of f5, either
Takes
maybe
or
immediately, and that
right.
way there's a target on f3, and I have no idea who exactly this favors, but castled queenside.
Wow.
Fabiano's castle queenside.
Well, this is exciting.
Laughing.
This is something I didn't expect at all.
He's laughing in the face of danger here. Excuse me, with the c file.
Wow, because now bishop
Wowzers.
g6 feels. Wait, okay. Here's a huge difference. After bishop g6, you can't play g4 anymore, because bishop g6, g4, I take on g4.
And you take on e4.
Exactly, and now c4 is undermined.
completely winning. Wow, this is
Honestly,
going to get
honestly,
exciting.
this move, long castle, doesn't feel like the way to go.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a good move, but just a general feel that you're trying to hold the position in your hands. I think it kind of allows Black to get some ideas.
Yeah, I mean,
it does it show a little bit of just nerves too, I guess, about the king in the center. He's again trying to go for the most forcing lines, maybe b5, rook c2. He's trying to clarify his own plan, and maybe at the very least he feels like if he can run his king out of the center, he can clarify where the rest of the game is going. You feel like maybe it's just kind of a I'm getting under time pressure, practical decision, Levon?
Uh, could be, but I don't think it's too practical
Yeah,
because you're allowing your opponent to get you know to get fast, to speed
yeah,
up. Because after bishop g7, after bishop g6, the calculation has to start, I'm guessing. And to be precise in your calculation, you need a lot of time.
right.
yeah.
So I'm not sure it's a practical decision. This actually speeds up the game. So maybe Fabiano calculated bishop g6 and f5 in detail, and therefore he sees that this doesn't possess any danger for white. Maybe
Yep.
that's the case, because after all, we're commentating here. We have 10 seconds on each move. Well,
Right.
these guys are truly understanding what's going on.
Right. And we're adding the job to it of trying to explain our thoughts to the viewers. And on that note, shout out to all 52,000 of you with us right now, whether you're at twitch.tv/chess or chess.com TV. Let's remind you of who our guest is here: Grandmaster Levon Aronian, #1 in Armenia, #1 in Robert's heart, and a 3-time gold medalist. And while we have you, Lev, this has been an awesome hour, and we want to remind everybody one more time that you're going to be competing in the Speed Chess Championship Final Four, the semifinals starting this coming weekend. And Levon has the task of taking on Hikaru Nakamura. It is going to be an epic semifinal. Make sure you join us on Saturday, December 1st at 10 a.m. Pacific. And Lev, I can't wait for that match. Can I just say that? Regardless, so having you here today.
I'm excited as well.
And we've got Castles Long. We've got a dancing chicken all over the board there for some of the chicken moves that.
But that's the opposite of a chicken move. Castle
Castles
queenside.
Queenside was not a chicken move. You're right. But it was a little bit.
There should be a line.
As Levon said though, maybe it's not a chicken move. Maybe it's just a bad move. So
I'm convinced. I mean, maybe I'm just continuing to convince myself because I said earlier, I really think Black is the side to be preferred here. I love Black's position. Your king is safe. Bishop g6, f5. That's what immediately comes to my mind. Even the move bishop takes e4, which we had discussed earlier, just because you have to take with the pawn now. My knight can run over to the g4 square. I definitely prefer bishop g6, f5, but I'm just not seeing exactly what Fabiano is doing. And granted, Lev, you made a great point that if Black is not quick, then White does have firm control over the e4 square, and some of those dynamics absolutely favor White. But in the interim, I really like bishop g6, f5, and then follow that up with e4, for example. And I'm not sure where Fabiano is going with it.
I'm guessing Fabi's plan is to meet bishop g6 with g4, hg, h5. Maybe this is the cunning plan.
ooh,
But if okay.
h5, interesting. Intermezzo.
So I can throw in g3, and I don't know if it's worth it, but always possible. Also, instead of going there, I can also play bishop f5 back, probably. Because with your pawn on c4 hanging, I'm not so worried about some
the
of these
main
things.
point, everybody, is this is not a possibility. Just remind everyone of the fundamental tactic making this work. So.
Well, we get to see. We get to live and see.
As commentators, we get to see,
Well,
and
maybe he'll go full chicken and go king b1 and just like get his king out of the way.
I actually don't think that that's a crazy idea. I mean, it is worthy of a chicken shout out. But my point was, I think from a practical point of view, if he decides he's not losing in lines like this, maybe Fabiano knows he was worse or felt that he might be worse and just didn't want to play the position with the king in the center.
But
So
this doesn't. Oh, Bishop G6 was just played actually.
Yep.
So Magnus playing relatively quickly still, and with the 30-minute time advantage and the position at hand,
definitely feeling like Magnus might have chances for to go anond, right? We were highlighting, Lev, in the beginning of our show that the last time a World Chess Championship was decided, right, in the final game was Topalov anond in 2010, and again Vichy won with the black pieces there. So it does happen, right, where the last game decides it all.
Yeah. Interesting one.
Well, I think we're going to take our next break, Lev, and thank you again for joining us. This has been awesome.
Thank you, guys.
We keep you all day. I'm not even sure we agreed on that, but this has been great. Your insights are awesome. We've
Thank you,
now
guys. Had a lot of fun.
we now have a forever a chicken emote and forever awesome comments here. But thank you Levon for being here. And if indeed we have tie breaks, you and I will be in touch. And so for those of you who liked Lev's commentary, secretly cross your fingers for tie breaks, and those of you ready to have a decisive result,
can I cross him on camera?
cross them on camera. We want Levon back. But thanks for being here, man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Pleasure working with you.
All right. Well, we have Bishop G6. We have some great analysis there. This is getting exciting. I miss him already too. I mean, he really brought the heat.
Yeah, I just love.
If it wasn't a PG show too, it would be even more exciting. Levon is quite the personality. So.
And from my perspective as well, I would be really dishing back. But I mean, what's great about Levon in particular is not only is he a phenomenal player,
right,
but he exudes that kind of awesome personality. Chess is a silent game. They're sitting there playing in a glass box where you can't hear talk.
Right.
So the fact that
also I think he did a great job of explaining kind of the philosophies behind his opinions. Right, we calculated some really sharp variations, but also kind of highlighting and giving us some answers as to why why we were all surprised by Fabiano's idea here, and feels like maybe Fabiano is giving Magnus all the play here. I think he tended to agree with you, but there's still a lot to be proven here.
Yeah, and I liked. I mean, of course, he's a stronger player than I am, but I loved many of his points where he was saying that, look at the e4 square. That's white's right now.
Right.
And if you just look at the pieces, the center is controlled by white, but black is the one who's coming up more quickly with the pawn breaks. I always tell people this, that generally speaking, and maybe you shouldn't always adhere to this philosophy, but generally speaking, the person who controls the pawn breaks is often the one with the advantage.
Right.
And
so here black controls both.
Exactly. Controls both sides, where c5 is never happening. So if black does really nothing, well, then what's white going to do? Of course, g4 was the idea we highlighted earlier.
Right.
But g4 not possible with the pawn on c4 hanging. So f5 is coming very quickly, followed by either probably e4 coming after that. And just to put a sample line, let's say king to b1 is played. f5.
Yep.
And knight to c3. I can even play e4 here, and after pawn takes e4, play knight e5. And I'm just playing with the flow of the position. I'm saying that I gave up a pawn temporarily, but you're not going to be able to keep it. You can't take on f5, because then knight takes d3.
And then you would lose.
Ouch town. So, I mean, just, you've had this feeling. You've played many, many chess games in your life. Doesn't it just feel like black is the one pushing forward here?
I agree. It's a very, very interesting game here, given that black may be the one with the winning chances. And like we said, it's funny, both games we showed that were in our pregame showed that the final game decided who won. They were both victories with black, ironically. One of them via an epic blunder by Chigorin all the way back in 1895. But one of them being a game where the defending world champion at the time, Vichy Anand, defended his title to Topalov. So will history repeat itself? We're going to find out here. We're going to take a very, very quick break, refresh ourselves. Bagel break, and be back with other guests lined up as well for today's Game 12, so don't go anywhere.
Chess.com is about playing. At any moment, there are thousands of people from around the world playing on Chess.com. So whether you're a total beginner or a grandmaster, you'll find a game quickly with someone at your level. You can play at any pace, from 1-minute bullet to 5-minute blitz to 60-minute games. Or you can play more relaxed games where you have several days to make your move. There are tournaments starting every few minutes, or you can play against our customizable coaching computer. Chess.com is for learning. Chess isn't just about playing, it's about getting better. Chess.com puts the best training tools at your fingertips. Sharpen your game with over 50,000 tactics puzzles. Improve your strategy with training videos by top grandmasters. Get instant feedback after your games with real-time computer analysis. Regardless of where you're at now, you can take your game to the next level. Chess.com is for sharing. Join the community where you can discuss chess ideas in the forums and follow the latest chess news. Or join a club with friends and play in a league against other clubs. You can find all this in your browser at home and at work, or on the go with your phone or tablet. Signing up is free and easy. So what are you waiting for? Enjoy your game.
And we are back with Game 12 coverage of the 2018 World Chess Championship. Here with me, Grandmaster and bagel lover, Robert Hess.
You promised me I could eat a bagel.
You've already had two. All
No,
right,
I had
let's
two
focus.
halves.
2 halves. That's right. He's right. It's only one full bagel. Touche.
Fractions, not your strong suit.
It never has been, right? High school dropout here. But thank you to all of you that are with us. Of course, we just said goodbye to a very special guest, Levon Aronian, who brought the analysis and the fun. Let's remind you that we will have the legendary Hoi Fawn coming up at some point here on today's show. This is our last chance to have the lady that has just taken our show by storm. She is the youngest female grandmaster ever, a former women's world champion. Excuse me, the bagel talking. And she's just had some amazing insights about what it's like to play in a World Chess Championship match and her experience with both these players. So she will be up here in just a few moments. Robin and I are going to dive into the analysis that we have at hand because we have had a move. Robert, we've had actually 2 moves. Bishop g6 very quickly met by rook to c2, and you and Lev were looking at lines with f5 and feeling good about Black's chances here. So what do you think is going to happen now?
f5, surprise, surprise.
Okay.
After f5, I think you should move your knight forward into g5. Because if you don't, if you move it backwards, it just feels too passive.
As Lev said, it's sort of a psychological defeat as well. This move does head into e6, so it forces a capture.
Although I wonder if I have to capture right away or if I can potentially throw in the move knight c5. I'm not sure knight c5 is a good move here, but I can throw it in because I cover e6, and then I can take g5 next move. So that's something to consider. But I think you can get away with capturing on g5 right away.
Right, and the point here, at least Lev's point, was that a lot of positions where this bishop was imprisoned after lines like knight c5 with tempo.
And now the problem is bishop can't retreat to c2 like it wants to. Now f4 comes.
And now f4
not only
comes.
imprisoning the bishop, but there's an attack over there.
These were lines that Levon was predicting when he was with us. If you happen to be just joining us, Lev doing a pretty impressive job here of saying what he thinks Magnus might go for. So, and Magnus is on that path right now, Robert, with bishop to g6. And indeed, right as I say that, I was backing up to get to the live position and only needed to go to here because f5 has been played, and we have a dynamic game here. This is a fight in game 12. So if you're just getting here, don't go anywhere because you may be missing the end of the World Chess Championship. We may not get to tie breaks because regardless of what happens, okay, Magnus up a half an hour on the clock. He's a little better. I mean, objectively, probably only a little better, but from a practical perspective, I think we feel like he's really in control of the direction of the game. But if he ends up blowing it, then you may end up in a situation where White gets winning chances right back, right? Because we're in a position of, again, I hate to say that we're not going to have the draw word, but I don't know that we will here. This doesn't seem like it's headed for a very simple position.
I feel very confident that the player would be very happy about a draw here is Fabiano, and Magnus will be upset with the draw. Okay, in the grand scheme of things, he'll be happy because he is the favorite in tiebreaks, but right now...
Look at this move, knight f2.
Knight f2, look how passive White is.
But it's not any of the move we've been predicting, so let's try to find what the plan might be. What's his idea? Because we've been predicting...
Perhaps he's going for g4 at some point for White. Like now he can make the move. But if I play bishop f6, I still don't think you can play g4 because your pawn h4 will be hanging in pretty much every line, and then after that I can take on f2. I can play knight c5 at any moment as black.
Plus, I feel like there's crazy. Wait, hold on. So, okay. So you're saying probably bishop f6 is your move here as black.
Oh, actually, yeah, if you go g4, after bishop f6, g4, I'll go e4.
Right.
And I say, okay, if you don't take me on e4, well, that's...
I
I take f takes g4 here, I have a protected pass pawn, the e5 square. I mean, this would be awful for white. And h4 is falling. Everything's terrible. So I also want to point out, before I start sounding like a Magnus Carlsen homer, I've known Fabiano Caruana my whole life. Right? We grew up playing together. We had the same chess coach. So I'm not rooting for anyone because I'm a commentator. I'm really not supposed to be. And I really just want a great match. But Fabiano Caruana is a friend of mine. So it's not like I particularly enjoy seeing him have this position from the white side. But
Right.
as trying to be as objective as possible, I look at the dynamic here. Black can play e4. Black can play bishop f6. Black can play knight c5.
Black still has ideas of b5, even with the rook here. Don't ever forget
Yeah.
who's sitting here behind it. No, I'm not disagreeing with it. I don't think anybody's thinking you are being a homer. We've had games where we've thought that both sides had winning chances, and both sides have been applauded for them sort of controlling the flow of the game, right? And right now, just look at the clock, 30 minutes for Magnus Carlsen. Look at the position and look at the space. And I think you highlighted just a really instructive point, because I think that's useful for our members, regardless of our opinion of this game and where it goes. What's useful, I think, for your own games is to know that when you're in control of the pawn breaks, it's generally just allows you to control the tempo of the game. Here, Black still has f4 that's on the mind, right? You have e4 on the mind, consistently opening up squares for the knight. And again, b5 has been shut down temporarily by the rook on c2, but it's a very, very dangerous thing to never forget about when your king is sitting here on c1. And okay, so now Black plays knight c5, and again, look how fast Magnus is playing. I think
He's
that has to be
confident.
the thing we're highlighting. He is just not slowing down.
And now you have no choice but to give up one of your bishops, because if you go bishop e2, which is the only way not to give up a bishop, then
Yep.
f4 comes and you lose your rook on c2
Yeah,
for my bishop.
tempo.
So that would be a huge problem.
Yep.
So if you
Losing the exchange.
this is in the current position right after knight c5. If you take on c5, I take with my queen.
You may have to.
Please go ahead and take my b7 pawn, because that
Well, I don't want to, but if you want me to do it for you to show the fans something, I will.
sure take it. Then
I
now
think you may even just go here. The bishop's hanging.
yeah, so I can go rook c
Oh, that was a mess. Yep.
rook c7 and then bring my rook to the b file eventually. Maybe this is something that queen
It's
e3
just-
checks also.
I
mean,
don't
queen
like this
E3
at
check
all.
is
I
fine.
hate f4. Okay, I can't play f4. I'm sorry,
But
but
queen
I-
e3 and take f3.
Okay, queen f3 would win back the pawn. Good point. And that would be probably good enough reason why taking b7 isn't so good. But I wonder in this line, the evaluation of this ending. So this is where we start to, you start to hate to say like White's bailing out for a peaceful result, but you wonder how much winning chances would Black have in a structure like this
Ton.
with the queens off the board. A
Huge
ton.
winning chances,
Yeah.
yeah.
So go ahead, show us what you think Black's idea is.
Well, so Black has many ideas. One of
Okay.
which is, well, firstly, what's White's move? If you play b4,
Well, I mean, I guess if I'm saying I'm no longer like worried about getting blown off the board, I mean, I know Black has f4. You'd like to get
that's really my main idea.
one of the main ideas, right? Because this would be undermining the pawns on the king side that you can't move back, right? You can't return home. I think White's main idea is, as it always is, either sit tight and try to hold on the light scores, or play for b4 and c5.
And wow, I mean, it just feels bad, man.
Feels
bad,
scary.
man. Whoa, f4 was just played by. Am
Wow.
I seeing that right?
f4.
Okay,
He's
you know what my immediate response is to that move? b5.
Just blow it open.
Just blow it open.
Here
because
we
you
go.
Can't, you can't
Without
take,
calculating.
You can't take on b5, because you take on b5 and take your bishop on d3 with check,
That's checkmate.
and then you get mated on the c2 square.
Yep. That's not fun.
And,
You're White.
and there's also, generally speaking, a misunderstanding of a position like this, where let's say you put b5 and pawn takes e5, d takes e5. Some people think this is a bad transition for Black because you've now given White two central pass pawns that are passed. But look at the bishop on e7, spying at the queen on b4.
Oh, this would be just tactically a
Yeah.
nightmare. I mean, I feel like we're a move away from blundering, and if you have to start running back things like this, okay, I don't see the immediate win for Black, but that's probably because I haven't calculated anything.
And-
You can take and play f4.
Yeah, that looks
E4
good.
is still on the board.
e4 looks. I mean, all the moves that you're suggesting look very good. Take on d3, take on c4. I mean, pawns are starting to fall off the board as well.
Yep.
So this is clearly favorable for
This
Black.
is crazy.
So-
If Magnus plays b5 quickly too, where you it's not exactly h3, but it did garner a surprising response from us. Too bad he's not on the show, because we may have caught another wild Nakamura on camera.
And if I don't want to, what if I just take on f4? I'm really struggling here, because if I take on f4 now,
So let's talk about why f4 was played first, just so everyone can understand that Black is so Black is in such good shape if and when he can ever bust open the diagonal for this bishop, especially knowing that this light square bishop is about to fall. So that's Fabiano's idea. And if you played a bad move, something like e4, and allowed the position to stay closed up, you would also have this bishop over here that no longer really has any future, right? So let's highlight, that's the idea behind f4, right? These guys are really strong players, and so there's merit to it. But the real issue here is that White is backpedaling, right? And you're constantly afraid of tactics, and that's why, from a practical perspective, especially knowing that Fabiano might get under time pressure, I'm also very, very in favor of this b5 move. Now, I would play that move by taking no time and then go on to checkmate myself in a bullet game, all right? But this isn't my autobiography here. This is Magnus Carlsen's opportunity to get winning chances with the black pieces here.
And honestly, Black still has a couple good options. We're talking about a b5. Maybe just take on f4, because you can't take back with the pawn on f4 once they take on f4, because then your h4 pawn falls.
Right.
And
Let's
you
just
don't
show that.
Sometimes you want to give up pawns in front of your enemy's king, but this is not one of those. And after bishop before bishop f6 or b5. Well, let's just go b5. Leave the bishop on e7 for now and play b5.
Again,
crashing.
b5 is just a nice move because of the very, very important tactic, right? The pawn is pin. Pin emote, because if you take, I remove your bishop and deliver the goods on c2. So that's the main thing. And b5 is a move that, remember when Levon was here, he was trying to make b5 work even as a pawn sacrifice.
Yep.
Right? But which is a principled thing to do whenever you have kings on opposite sides of the board. That's the kind of game you'd like to create. Open lines for your pieces to get at the big guy over here, right? So this shouldn't be a shocker that b5 is a move, and the more I look at it, the more I like it. Mikey likes it. I'm not Mikey, actually. Yep, so not Mikey. But I do like it.
It's really looking unpleasant, to say the least. And actually, I just thought of some more things. Let's say I take on f4, bishop f4, played b5, and you move your bishop back to f1 or something.
Okay, let me get it out.
I can even go a5 here, because you can't afford to take on b5 because bishop e8 traps your queen.
Get you playing Puzzle Rush. You been doing your puzzles?
Not really.
Yeah, you have. Come on.
I played once last night. I couldn't help it.
You couldn't help it.
Yeah,
Every
right
day.
before bed. I couldn't help myself. But look how quick.
If you go into the Puzzle Rush stand, I just checked it this morning, and it was like Anish Giri,
Svidler's been playing.
Peter Svidler.
A5
It's become the.
Yeah, I don't like that move.
Whoa.
That move I really don't like.
A5, but he's not going to get b5 anymore, or is he? You can't really go queen a b5 anyway because of your bishop e8 move.
Right, but you can just go queen d2 now and protect your c2 rook.
Really?
Right, you now b5
Yeah,
doesn't
now
work.
I guess at the very least I'm not getting mated.
Right. a5.
That's a good point. What's the idea? I'm sure Magnus has an idea. If queen to d2.
I don't get it. I'm speechless for the first time today.
You're like, dude,
What is that?
where's my move?
Queen d2 is fairly obvious, I think. So what's his intention?
Maybe he's just saying that I believe in Black's edge here based on the tension here still favoring me. I don't think White ever wants to take. So maybe he plays a4?
I really don't want to do that.
I mean, yeah, it's a really slow plan compared to our b5. I mean, we don't have an engine in front of us, so maybe there was some really concrete reason why b5 wasn't good. But I agreed with you.
It looked good.
It looked
so
good to
after
me.
queen d2, could he possibly try and go bishop e8? And the sneaky threads, let's say your pawn takes e5. Yeah, exactly.
No, I see it.
Bishop a4.
I got you, baby girl. I see your threat.
And so if you go b3, just to finish this line off, bishop takes b3, and you can't
Fork
take back.
emote. Get your fork emotes on. Come on, everybody. The party. Yeah, that would be a problem. In fact, you have a skewer followed by a fork. Isn't it weird how that happens?
Never fun.
Never fun. Okay. I am surprised by a5 from the principled point of view that b5 is just not going to happen, at least in the same kind of just blow open the queenside sense anymore, like it could have.
Maybe it's still good though. I mean, you were highlighting. It's not like White has any sort of active counterplay.
Well, and remember, Levon liked b5 even from a pawn sack point of view.
Yeah.
Right? There was a reason for that. I don't know.
Your idea with a4 might not be so ridiculous. Not that I would expect it to be, but just that knight b3 check sometimes comes to mind. If I can put my rook back on a8.
I think the main reason I don't like this is if I can go back.
Yeah.
Although maybe now you get your b5 again.
Ah,
right?
sneaky.
Yeah, because the pawn is once again
But
pinned.
you can take with the queen now.
And you don't have maybe
Bishop e8 doesn't trap my queen.
bishop e8 doesn't trap anymore. But
It's queen
it is a boatload of counterplay to steal Napoleon Dynamite's line.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, eat the b file, you big lard.
And you can actually take on f4 and play bishop f6 and just do a big attack down the b line. Wow, what? Still though.
Again, one thing. Nakamura sighting in the wild.
We gotta love
I
our
hope we
producer.
get Hikaru on this show at some point today. Let's remind everybody, Ho Yifan is coming up just soon. So I'm just reminding you of that, just generally into the universe, if you care.
Wow.
Wow.
Something is about this a5 movement. It's sort of something that's been bogging Magnus down through this entire match, in my opinion. Is that he's getting some very good positions, and in un-Magnus or traditional Magnus-like fashion, I feel like he's lighting things up. Now, I'm not saying he has in this position. Perhaps it's just a better
we
movement.
don't have the engine in front of us, whatever, right? But if that was a critical moment where you could have played for b5, maybe it's a moment where Magnus will wish he took a little more time.
Yeah,
right?
that's what I was going to say. Is he started moving very quickly.
We have noticed the pattern of that,
Yeah.
right? And again, like you and I, we get chances sometimes to talk about this stuff kind of over lunch after the game's over, when we get to kind of remove our own emotions, right? In the commentary, we're with all of you and going through the ups and downs of what they do. And then one thing we've highlighted when we've been talking is, like, in game 1 he did that, right? Game 9 also with the h4 h5 plan, right? Maybe not exactly. Like, Magnus has also sometimes not managed his time ideally.
In game 3, he had the endgame that was very pleasant. We were with Yifan.
Yeah.
And then when f takes e4, and then the game fizzled out.
That's right. He gave away, and even Fabiano said in the post-game press conference of game 3 that he expected Magnus to kind of make him suffer a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously it's easy for us to say, okay, we've now seen queen to d2, and we are following lines that Robert and I are kind of predicting, I guess.
Yeah, and it is very easy for us to sit here and be like, oh, b5, just go, go, go. But I still
National
believe
Master Rob King in the Chess TV chat makes a point, be saying maybe he's playing on intuition because it's when he feels he's better. I mean, one thing that does happen to players when they don't feel like they're on their best form, right, is they do start to overthink even themselves, right? I mean, Hikaru and I had a sit down at the Isle of Man after he won a big game, and Hikaru was talking about that himself, like where he felt like he wasn't doing as well in the Olympiad, and he was struggling over a few-month period, right? And he was very open and honest about it. Hikaru's interviews are great. And he kind of said that that's something you end up doing when you don't feel like you're on form, right?
Yeah.
And form is temporary, class is permanent. If you expect better of yourself, you're like, I'm a higher class player than this, you're like, oh, I'm spending too much time, so I'm just going to force myself to speed up, right? And then maybe you speed up in the wrong moments. And so it's an interesting thing. It's a struggle, right?
Yeah.
So,
but something about this is really...
Something about a5 does feel like it wasn't as, like, here I come as b5 was. I agree.
This bishop e8 idea still looks very interesting, so I don't want to dismiss that entirely.
Yep.
But b5 felt just much more to the point.
Yeah.
Right? You definitely do not want to take on d3 here.
Wow. Totally different approach than we were expecting.
What is... Okay, he's shutting down the position, and he's saying that here's a critical point. The knight on f2 belongs
Magnus
on d4.
is making the WTF lines on my forehead become permanent.
Then I'm
As
shocked.
I get older, by the way, I get a lot more of those.
I'm shocked just like you are. But
Yeah.
I think one thing that Magnus notes is that knight on f2 wants to be on d4. Right? If we could put that knight on d4.
Yeah, that's a great point. This knight suddenly feels like a totally lost soul over here. Like, if I could go here, but the Chess.com bugs strike again.
So look at Magnus playing instantly. Bishop e2, bishop e8. So that's still a good move.
But again, he's playing super fast
And
as compared to, like, I mean, if you go back to this position, I feel like the advantage was potentially bigger.
Yeah.
And the kind of game that was going to get me, is so excited I'm glad I'm off camera. It was about to get real nuts. Now we're not getting that at all. We're getting a closed game where Black has a lot to prove on the queen side here.
So we know bishop a4 is the big threat, right?
Yep.
So maybe king b1 so I can finally meet bishop a4 with b3.
Right. No more.
There's no more forks.
No more sacks. Right, because there's no more fork here.
And if you take with the knight on b3, which you can't sacrifice that way after b3 and knight takes b3.
That would be
But
would be
I don't
wild.
believe in this because after rook b2, for example,
Yeah.
and you
You're
take
you're
on d1,
you're
queen
happy.
takes d1.
Even knight takes.
Yeah, even knight takes. Your pawn h5's hanging. You've all
Yeah.
these weak squares
No,
on the
this
queen
is,
side.
This is not the kind of game you want.
No.
Wow. This is just.
This is
So people in the Twitch chat saying they're ready for rapid games. I think you might be ready to be wrong because I think we're in for some excitement here today in Game 12.
I love this comment here. Guys, you are talking nonsense. He's being practical on playing the psychological game also. Okay, the way you play the psychological game is by when you have an advantage, you keep it. Right? That's
right. I don't think the advantage is getting any bigger for sure, and if the advantage goes away, you're not gonna agree with that. So
there is something said for playing quickly, but you want to play quickly and well, especially when you're up 30 minutes on the clock.
well, excuse me again.
Wow.
I feel like I'm finally losing my voice. It's 12 games. Can you feel
I
it?
thought you were coughing about a5.
Well, it's good that I'm losing my voice, and we've had nothing but all-star guests joining us because we're about to welcome another one right now. She's back. Guess who's back? Back again. Yvonne's back. Tell a friend. Yvonne's back. Yvonne's back. Let's bring her on right now because as I put a throat coat cough drop, throw the wrapper behind me because who cares about anything besides Yvonne joining us as she is about to do right now.
There she is.
We have an exciting game here, Yvonne, in Game 12. Although we've been critical of Magnus's last few moves and the fact that they came so quickly. Before we even get to the live position, let's get your thoughts. Do you agree with Robert and I that on move 25, Magnus should have played the move b5 instead of a5?
Oh, hi. Sorry, I didn't catch clearly on move 25 instead of a5.
I'll invite you to the analysis board. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
I messed up again.
And she forgives you every time because that's a nice person.
Yep, she does. So I just invited you to our board here, and we were highlighting that it seemed that in this position, Magnus may have not taken the most direct road to punish Fabiano's f4 with the move b5. But what is your thought on first our opinion of that, and your thoughts on the game generally?
In general, I thought, let's say until this moment, Black should be very happy for the position he got, even after a5.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have some similar feeling like in last couple moves, probably Magnus could done something better. So b5 could be very interesting.
Okay.
For example, how about bishop takes c5?
Ooh, we didn't look at that.
Why we're here and they're there.
That's why Yvonne is better than us.
I just started to look at the position, so probably there will be some very innocent moves.
No, you're probably right, to be honest.
Well,
I mean,
I did still say maybe taking on f4 was the right way to start instead of b5. So, okay, that looks not...
That's an interesting point. No, we were also looking at lines like this, because obviously taking f4 and then b5, okay, at the very least that would prevent the bishop takes c5 plan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in general, I thought a5 could be a kind of positional decision.
Right.
While hoping to, slowly get in control with the position, but b5 could be more decisive. And talking about the essence of such a position that came from Sicilian, normally we should consider more such a forcing line like b5. I mean, if it doesn't work well, then we can switch for other options. And also what seems a bit interesting to me is like Magnus played relatively quickly on this game. I mean, normally it could be very critical because if you really found something better, you could try to, take over with Black. But with that much time on the clock, but still trying to put pressure. Because about the time I'm joining, I heard you were talking about psychological. Probably that's one of the reasons.
Right. But we were also talking about time management on that point. I mean, are you... Okay, to say we're critical of Magnus a little harsh. I mean, we obviously know he's... the world champion and best player on the planet, all that stuff, but it does seem like he was just playing a little bit too fast given the opportunity at hand, that it was such a critical moment. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly, but probably he didn't realize, but it shouldn't be because, of course, a5 or b5 is a very critical decision, and to push e4 or e takes f4 is also very important. So normally, as world champion, he definitely would have such a feeling, but probably he would count the psychological element is a little bit even more important at the last game of the match. I mean, last classical game.
And are you saying the psychological element that he wants to play fast to get Fabiano under time pressure, like he's valuing that even more?
Yeah, probably. I mean, it could be one of the reasons that I mean, why he played relatively faster.
Okay.
Yeah, I think also he just doesn't want to lose, right? I mean, his position was good, but there are drawbacks to playing so adventurously on the queen side. And this position is very safe for black, right?
Right.
Close the center. There's no worries in the e file. The knight on f2, as we mentioned, needs to go to d4, but it can't get there anytime soon.
And so let's go with the line that happened then. So Magnus played a5, and if you're just joining us here, Ho Yifan giving us her thoughts here as we analyze together queen to d2, b5 not played again, but we were highlighting that after the move e4, Magnus committing to, as you said, Yifan, a much more positional approach here. Bishop to e2, bishop e8, and after king to b1, we've now seen the move bishop to f6. This is our live position. So, okay, despite our criticism of maybe the time management, but you highlighted maybe it's a psychological thing. Magnus is valuing more the time on the clock than even maybe the best or most concrete approach. What are your thoughts on the live position as far as the plan for each side here?
As I mentioned at the very beginning, black reached a very pleasant position, but the point is like how to improve, because the only way to break through would still be b5 actually. Otherwise, if you allow time for white to maneuvering a bit, for example, and to move the d1 rook to somewhere, maybe c1, rook dc1 or rook e1, with the idea maybe knight d1, bishop d4 at some moment. And when you successfully do that, and together with knight e3, I thought white should be more or less completely fine. But while you are kind of establishing this plan, you should be careful with the idea like knight d3 at certain moment. So still, white needs to be more careful, and black can, very comfortably maneuvering a bit, waiting for the chances.
Right. But just to show the line that Yifan was just giving, our fans can see it rather than have to visualize it. This idea of moving the rook, if black just did something silly, interesting point that eventually white might want an idea like this, where the knight can find itself on a much happier square, supporting critical things and hitting f5. So, but as Yifan is saying, that's very slow, and you also have to be careful about the knight hopping into d3, especially if this light square bishop gets traded. Suddenly b5 is back on the table, right?
It also connects. Yeah.
And Yifan, a question for you is, so at some point black can try for bishop a4 to provoke b3. Is that provocation good for black, or do you think that it also has some benefits for white as well?
I thought it's double-edged, and to be honest, I'm not sure if it's exactly working for black, because though it's a kind of half piece versus 2 pawns, but it's relatively, let's say, blockade. And after bishop takes d1, you have knight takes d1, and then knight c3, knight b5. I didn't see that, so how black could be better.
Oh, yeah, let me clarify. I meant instead of taking on b3, if I just provoke it and then move my bishop back. So essentially, let's say...
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You want to go back?
Yes. I was wondering if that inclusion... Wait, isn't the bishop on f6 already?
Something like this?
Well, I kind of want my... Whatever. However exactly we get there, but if white is forced to play b3, is that inclusion beneficial for black, or do you think white is perfectly fine? Well, I know they have to, but do you think white is perfectly fine to let that happen?
Well, I thought white should be fine, because to be honest, now it's still difficult for you to push b5, and a4 will force b4. And again, I think the white will kind of continue the plan I mentioned before. For example, like bishop d4 and knight maneuvering. I mean, it could be the same. And b3, I think the only thing is kind of weaken this dark square diagonal, and it doesn't really, let's say, it doesn't really scare the white so much. And just in case if a4, b4, and the white can stabilize the queen side, that should be okay.
Right. Just to show that idea, or I guess we'll make a random move, Yifan highlighting that a4, b4, white can stabilize things and maybe actually have a good space advantage. So, interesting idea there by Robert, maybe to induce b3, but bishop f6 was played, and now we have your suggested Yifan on the board. Fabiano has played rook e1 with very clear intentions, I would imagine, to try to get this knight on a better square than f2.
Yeah, and he chose e1, because if you went to c1, then bishop a4 at some moment still could be very annoying to deal with, right?
Right.
I don't know if I do it right away, because
but just to show
yeah,
the
something
fork.
like this is always a possibility.
Right. Okay. So the rook goes to e1. Your thoughts, Ifan, on where this is headed? What plan might Magnus want to do here to try to slow down White from kind of improving this traffic jam over here of minor pieces?
I think there will be basically two different type of options. The first is trying to enhance, but to be honest, I didn't see clearly how Black can enhance in his position because most of the pieces are kind of on the right position. So one very slow but the positional idea would still hoping for b5, for example. But how to connect with bishop e8, I'm not sure. For example, you can move the other rook to b8, for example, like rook b8, rook fc8, and then bishop e8 with the idea b5. But again, it's really slow, and I wouldn't recommend it, but it could be something positional. And
is it possible Black could do that with a move like bishop d7 still, or is it just too slow?
Wait.
I mean, here h5 is hanging, so if you want
sorry to interrupt. I just had this idea come in my head, and I couldn't help myself. If bishop a4, b3, are there some like queen b6 ideas coming at some point? I mean, I just, your king is so open over there. I'm not sure you're getting away with this, but maybe I got so excited I couldn't help it.
Yeah, it looks very dangerous, actually.
I don't know. Exactly. Maybe I'm.
For example, let's play a couple of moves. I mean, it could be super dangerous, but for example, knight d1.
Well, what if I take on b? Oh, my knight's pinned. Okay.
Yeah, or rook b2.
Right, but my knight on c5 is pinned, so it doesn't quite work out. But I just have this feeling that maybe I can take on b3 first and play for something. There has to be some kind of mating idea. I feel like the king is so exposed on the queen side that if I throw in somehow bishop a4, b3, that if I get things right over there, I just don't know how to do it.
It's also very risky, right? I mean,
it's concrete, though, right? So you have to find an exact solution. I mean, b5 at some point is what... I provoke b3 so I can also play b5 as black and just start ripping and sacrificing pieces on the queen side. It's sort of...
But again, I mean, yeah, it's the riskiest way to play the position, too, right? I mean, it's how black can play for a loss if it's not concrete enough.
It feels like there's something there.
I'm just go back to this.
In that initial position, bishop a4, b3, I feel like there's something there. I'm just not in the right maybe headspace to get it right now, or I'm just not strong enough. But Ifan, what do you think? Is there something that I'm just missing here?
Yeah, it looks very tempting, but we just need to kind of figuring out what would be the next. I mean, queen b6 is a very, very, interesting idea, and if it could work out, so maybe it could be together with. No, it doesn't work.
What if I go knight takes b3 here and take the knight b3, pawn takes bishop b3?
I think the biggest issue with this is that I'm more than happy to just give back material.
No, but now I have b5. This is different.
b5.
I'm breaking everything open. I'm just throwing the kitchen sink.
And again, I guess.
Really, I take on c2 with check.
Right? Yeah, I have to take with the king.
And I have 3 pawns for the...
At this point, I would be happy to have the minor piece dynamic if I'm not getting mated. So.
But I think you might, because if I take on c4 with the pawn, the b file is open. Queen d7 to a4 is another idea. This looks, at the very least, extremely risky for white with no risk for black.
I just don't know that I agree that it has no risk for black. I mean, to me, this is like, if you don't mate me, this is the kind of position where the minors will outplay the rooks.
And I'm going to mate you.
Maybe.
Well, to be honest, I thought black is, better. If not talking about winning or not, but white is definitely kind of try to defend because not only with 3 pawns, this position without the queen, probably white can help something, but with the queen on the board and the king is completely exposed, I thought it shouldn't, it should work out for black somehow.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the live position then. If we're speculating on how Magnus is going to deal with the positional threat of knight to d1, right? To remaneuver. I guess from a psychological standpoint in the match, though, right? I mean, if you're not playing b5 earlier, are you really trying to make lines like that work if you're Magnus? That's where I'm skeptical that that's kind of what we're going to see. Because the most forcing way for black to play is certainly variations like that. and variations like what we had earlier with b5, and it feels like Magnus wants a position that's a little bit slower.
He played a4, just as you said that.
And so I'm not surprised, mainly because I feel like if he was going for the all-in approach here and disregarding that he thinks he's a favorite in rapid, he might have played b5 earlier. I'm not saying you're not right. Maybe he should have played for that. I believe he should have played for b5 earlier, but I'm not surprised to see a4. That's all.
I just think it's missed opportunities. And as much as I agree that he's the huge favorite in the rapid, I don't think he's favored enough where I wouldn't have tried to push in this position.
Let's go back to one of the ideas you said about a4, Ifan. He was highlighting that this b3 square could be used for the knight and try to open up the a file. So maybe here he's playing for a mating attack with less risk. What are your thoughts on Magnus's plan of a4?
Well, but I doubt that he's really counting on that, because it would be kind of too easy for opponent to notice. And not to mention, even if you play knight b3 at a certain moment, I will always have the move like queen b4.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
It's not really a very dangerous threat. But instead, as mentioned before, I would still considering some playing, for example, like g6, bishop d7, and maneuvering the rook onto the queen side and slowly push b5. I mean, as you mentioned, probably Magnus is trying to avoid any forcing line to reduce the possibility of calculation, but it doesn't mean that Black cannot have the way to slowly improve his position, and the pressure is still on white side.
Yeah, because b5 is going to be played by Magnus at some point, right? So rook b8, eventually play for b5, and I think you make a great point. You found that you can time it right. You can play g6, bishop d7, rook to b8, even play b6, rook b7, other rook to b8. You don't have any rush necessarily.
You move this guy, you bring this guy
on
over.
that side of the board. So
g6 is a move I kind of expect at some point anyway, just from a prophylactic point of view. Guard the pawn so that this bishop is free to do whatever may come his way over here on the queen side. So to give your opinion on where this is headed, you feel like, are we already in kind of the two-result territory where, Black is pushing here? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either this resource, and I don't think Magnus is in dangerous situation now. He has nothing to worry about, to be honest. And from his move, we also noticed that he's quite smooth today. I mean, based on the very safe level that to guarantee the position is okay for him. And based on this strategy, normally, he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, he's been doing all of this fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Right? So from the practical perspective, that he's got one big advantage right now, and it's not on the board. It's on the clock.
I think it's both. Yeah, I think you finally made great adjective, smooth. Right, he's not taking any huge risk. He's got a better position. He doesn't have to worry about losing this game, and he can press without any real worry. And I think from my perspective, it's easy for me to see like general concepts and attacking ideas, but it's very difficult to calculate, even for these two players, the concrete variations. We heard Fabiano in game 8? What was the white side? That's game 8.
Yeah.
Where he had a great position. He just I couldn't figure it all out. I was trying to make things work, and I think Magnus is having the same issue. I, of course, haven't made anything work. I just have the ideas going for it and sacrifices that look tempting. But, maybe he's just doing the smart thing here and just playing more solidly and less tactically and concretely where it could backfire. So props to him, I guess.
Yeah, very practical conclusion. Actually, probably it even works better rather than what we discussed. It could be more accurate, because in a practical game, under a very important tournament, the most important thing is not be, accurate, but be practical.
Right. Well, let's go back to seeing this from White's perspective. You highlighted that rook e1 had a plan of knight to d1. So if you're playing Fabiano's position here, what do you think White needs to do, Ifan?
Let's say 91, because I still didn't see why it doesn't work. So it seems like the most natural move from human perspective, because we realize that the knight on e3 could be a very good square for the knight.
Right.
And not to mention, in the middle game, it also supports like c2 or c4 at some moment. So this is the right place for the knight. But again, I said the backside would be 93 at certain moments, not now, obviously, but
I was going to ask that. When is this an option? I mean, would you ever try to go to b5 as a trade to get the life of your bishop off the board, or when is knight c3 and knight b5 something that White should be looking for?
Oh, by the way, maybe it makes sense. Okay, so firstly, in case to deal with your knight c3 idea, I might try rook a8.
Well, also, I guess if rook a8 looks like a good move as well. So you're trying to meet knight c3. I guess what happens after knight c3 after?
Go ahead and play white, Ifan, if you want knight c3 and.
Well, maybe you can try the knight c3, right? Correct. So I was thinking this one, but
We're
I
back
mean,
to this idea. I told you it was
I
coming.
polluted your mind.
Queen b1.
No, I wanted it. And let's just show everybody why. If takes and takes, the point is that now we have important mating patterns you should all be aware of, right? That's pattern recognition. Black is getting everything that he or she wants on the A file there. It's going to be checkmate. So if queen d1, now what would you do?
Maybe queen a5 with the idea at some moment a3.
Yeah, this would be fun.
Wow, but queen b4 was just played by
Fabiano going for a different plan here, Yvonne. He plays the move queen to b4. That is a principled way to say that he wasn't impressed by Magnus's a4 move, but something tells me that this is getting into dangerous territory now if Fabiano feels like he has to play a move like that.
But to be honest, it's easy for white to get lost here. I mean, if you don't have a very sufficient plan to enhance the position, but you just make move by move to deal with the threat you face that produced from your opponent, then that would be tricky.
Yeah, and you're right. White is playing move to move, and black can just play g6. Right? We were talking about this move being useful, and after g6, we no longer have bishop d4 ideas because our queen's moved. Knight d1 doesn't work out so well after g6 because I think after g6, knight d1, knight d3 is highly annoying.
Yeah, very dangerous at least.
Because you have to take there, and that's not a good trade for white because you have to defend c4. Now I have some in the e file to work with as well. It doesn't look too pleasant there.
Yeah, what's the idea behind queen to b4? Is he going back for this idea to trade on c5?
No way.
Maybe kind of waiting because probably Fabiano is trying to see what black going to do next move in the future if he successfully prevent b5 idea, like how black should improve.
But we now have Fabiano showing 15 minutes on the clock for 10 more moves. Let's remind everybody of the format real quick because time pressure may actually become a critical part of this game here. 10 more moves to make right now before move 40. But once we reach move 40, both players will get 50 more minutes on the clock for the next set of moves. If we reach move 40 before something big has happened on the board, then we may still have plenty left. But at this point, after queen to b4 and Fabiano having only 10 minutes left, 15 minutes left for the remaining 10 moves, I think time pressure is going to become an issue here.
Completely agreed. I mean, has been looking scary for a while, and Yvonne said it best when she says that Fabiano started playing move to move because he doesn't have a concrete plan.
Right.
And on the flip side, Magnus can play quickly and well by playing moves like g6, maybe playing queen to g7, flipping that queen to the long diagonal.
I was going to say I like that battery even more I think than bishop g7. If we could find a way to back up that plan with something, I don't know, maybe just the rook b8 and eventually try to get b5. Another reason the g6 could be played.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then their ideas with rook f7 to c7, just getting that rook to the other side of the board.
But Yvonne, I know we only have you for a few more minutes here. You're obviously very busy, currently attending Oxford, and I know you've got stuff on your plate. You've done such a great job commentating on the games here and answering all of our questions, but we haven't really asked any questions about you. We did have one about what are your plans moving forward. Are you planning on competing in the women's World Championship candidate cycle next year, or are you focused on your studies right now and not thinking as much about your own career as a professional player?
Well, I didn't expect such a question.
I know. That it's not from me. It's from our team behind the scenes. They want to make sure I ask you that since this will maybe be the last time we have you on the show.
Oh, got it. Actually, that could be I have a lot to say about that, but I'll try to be short because today our focus.
Go for it.
Okay, so basically, let's say I was focusing on the study. I'm still focusing on the study, but you might notice that I didn't join you guys like last Saturday because I was playing the Bundesliga in Germany. So I'm not like completely out of chess. So I do play in the, kind of in the weekend, or there's no lectures. But in the meantime, I'm also trying to balance with my studies, and apparently it took me more time and energy recently. But I'm also following very closely on the tournaments like the match and the other top events. So talking about my future plan, actually, this is the time I'm started to think more about the system, because I also read the news, and also there are people trying to contact me. But the thing I was not so happy with is basically before the handing menses, before we decided whether to play this tournament or not, I didn't be informed that the winner could be kind of define the title in 2 years. There will be another candidate tournament. So that's all the information from I knew personally much later. So
Right.
I read it from the news. So I thought that for the players, actually, we should have the right to be informed. As the participants, right? So we should have the right to be informed in advance in case for each individual players to make their best decisions whether to play or not. So talking from this perspective, what we knew before deciding whether to play in this World Championship is not full information.
Right.
So, and besides that, I was also be approached later on. Like there were some talks approach me asking if you're considering to play the candidates. But then my question is, if I knew before, I might even consider to play the handy, but not the candidates, right? Because even if you play the candidates, then you need to challenge for the winner, which came out from this tournament. So
Right.
all things seems to me a bit, complicated now.
A very complicated
And
system. We agree with you. Too complicated.
yeah, exactly. It seems like the system going to change as exactly as the main system. But if we think closely, like how it be changed and how the first, let's say, world champion there to wait the challenger is not exactly the same. And the whole process, like how things going on and how every participant related to the system could get the full information.
Right.
That could be an issue.
Well, if you're just joining us, that was on a question asked of Aoife on what her plans are in regards to perhaps re-engaging and competing in the Women's World Chess Championship cycle. Obviously, for those of you that are kind of hardcore chess fans, you know that it's a very complicated cycle, and I think you gave a great answer, Aoife. Like you said, you had a lot to say, and I think you made great points, right? We wish there was a clearer system and that the players were given more information and more clear options, right? And so I appreciate you answering that question, even though I kind of blindsided you with it. I had to get one question about your chess while you were with us.
Yep.
But okay, we've now had two moves, Ifan, G6 and Rook to D1. And before we let you go, because like I said, I know you have a limited schedule with us for the last few minutes. Tell us where you think this game is headed, and maybe make a prediction of what you think is going to happen here.
That would be the most tricky question of our talk today. It's really hard to make. Because I have a feeling that probably it won't be a draw, but again, I thought that it's not so clear at the moment, because if we see the latest couple moves, Rook E1, Queen B4, Rook D1, from players' perspective, it's not a good signal for white, because you start to wait. Although it's a kind of, let's say, semi-closed position. But against white, when you're maneuvering like this, and not to mention black still have b5, so it's not so promising. But it doesn't mean that black can definitely find a plan to have the breakthrough. So
Right.
We'll see. As we mentioned before, it will be two results, either even draw or black might try to win.
Right.
And I thought the chance would be around maybe 50-50,
Okay.
something like that.
50-50 that Magnus might try for a win, or that it would be a draw.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay. Well, I think that's a good safe prediction, right? We chess commentators always we try to play the results as best as possible, right? so you don't have to guess with the fully decisive result there, but we agree. And honestly, just in case this is the last time we have you, depending on what happens in this game, just want to say thank you so much for being a regular part of the show here. We have almost 55,000 viewers, and you've just been amazing, and I know appreciated by the fans, and you have your own emote now on our channel because people love you. And thank you so much, Yvonne, for taking time out of your busy schedule at Oxford for us.
Yeah, definitely. It's been an absolute pleasure. Probably our favorite daily guest, or almost daily guest.
Right,
know?
Almost daily guest, and we've had quite the all-star lineup, but really appreciate your time, and the insights have been amazing. So thank you once again, and we will maybe see you on Wednesday if we have tie breaks, maybe not. We don't know yet, but either way, thank you again, and till next time.
Yeah, we'll see. And thank you all. It's a great pleasure to join you guys and to share some knowledge. And probably you'll see me soon in the future. Who knows?
Yep.
Yes.
All right. Well, have a good evening there, and we'll catch up with you later.
Okay, see you then.
Bye. Back to our daily question. We have a moment to breathe here. We've had so many amazing guests. We had Levon Aronian. If you just got here, you missed an amazing segment there. Now we've had Ho Yifan again for what we wish was every day, but it's been awesome every time she's been here. There's our daily question, and there's a tweet. The match has probably the highest level of back and forth ever. Draws indicate a balance of equal powers, not a lack of tension. That's like almost philosophical right there. Who would call an arm wrestling match boring where two equal opponents push with all their might, arms unmoving? Great point. That guy's like a poet. Simon Reinhard.
Got a good poet name, too.
So, yeah, I mean, maybe he is a poet. But thank you for that. Thank you for everyone who gets involved on social media during these events. And, again, giving away Diamond memberships. If you have a great question like that guy, we got to get that guy Diamond membership.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is definitely turning into a two-result position in my mind. I think we're in exciting territory here to see if Carlsen wants to go Anand and win with the black pieces.
And I love how you got stuck because you said car, and you're like, wait, they both start with car. I could tell you had the moment like car. Wait, which one of them?
Exactly. We had a great question of which car would they be. That was one of my favorite daily questions.
There's some great memes from that one.
Yep. Anyway, so we have Rook D1. We have tension on the board. Robert, let's kind of highlight for people what the dynamic is here, what we think both sides are playing for after this move, Rook D1.
Yeah, it's good to highlight why Yifan and we are also saying that it's a two-result game. Black will either win this one or it will be a draw. Because white has no pawn breaks whatsoever. Mm-hmm. I've mentioned this many times.
Let's highlight all the backward pawns. Bad pawn, bad pawn, bad pawn.
Yep, and any pawn move, okay, you can't push the G pawn. There are too many pawns for black hitting that square.
C pawn is stuck and maybe a target.
Yep, the B pawn, if you ever push that, I'll trade immediately and open the A file, and you might just get checkmated.
And again.
So, in general, black is the one who controls the pawn break, and that pawn break is B5. Now, not easy at all to get in, because the bishop on E2 and pawn on C4 and the queen on B4 all team up very well to stop that pawn push. Which means that even if you get rook B8, that's still not enough firepower to defend the B5 square and break through. Exactly.
And that as Yifan said, regardless of the fact that black is playing for two results, that's kind of the one maybe trump card right now that Caruana has, right?
Yeah.
That black also doesn't have exactly a clear plan just yet, and now we see Magnus having played the move rook A8.
You know what that tells me?
Huh.
He might be going for an attempt at a piece
sacrifice.
sacrifice.
Can you say rook lift?
I think either rook lift or piece sacrifice.
I want rook lift.
Because if you, let's say you make some kind of waiting. Let's go rook.
How many times I got to highlight this before you acknowledge me? I'm like a kid screaming, Daddy, 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 Daddy.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
This plan is coming, Robert.
So, if you play, let's say rook H1, some useless move.
Okay.
And to highlight what I was going to say, and then we'll definitely go back to the rook lift, A3, B3, and then I try for something tricky like bishop A4.
I think you've been obsessed with this idea.
I am.
I think my idea is a little more likely.
I'm obsessed with it, but I also am trying to get your rook lift. I'm trying to get your rook lift through a piece sacrifice.
Yes, I love it.
Let me sacrifice a piece.
Hey, I'm with you. Hey,
right,
everyone wants to sacrifice.
Rook
sometimes.
A6. Rook A6 is right. No, rook A6 is a sensible move.
And it actually suddenly would be principle too. We talked about if we were talking about we have. The footwork of champions, right? Heavyweight boxing match, and it's the footwork. It's somebody getting off balance before the big hit is delivered that people don't notice. Look at this. We have this A4 move, and then Fabiano tries to react and say, now I'm going to slow you down with queen here and try to stop B5. But now Magnus is saying, okay, you put your queen on an awkward square, you may regret that, right?
So in the live position, I'm going to merge our plans. You always said we're better when we're commentating together, right? So rook 8 after rook A8, right?
Okay, wait. So
G6 was played.
G6 was played.
D1,
Rook D1.
Rook A8.
Okay, here comes rook a8.
We analyze so many things that get lost in the weeds there.
Yep.
So let's say rook h1 is played. Just a terrible move. Don't play that move.
Again, the terrible move, rook h1. Yep.
Rook a6.
Okay.
So we're using your plan, but maybe now black is threatening to play a3. So if I go rook d1 back,
Right.
and I play a3, now after b3, I may even just give up this b pawn and play a move like rook to b6 and say, please take my pawn to open the file. So after rook b6, queen takes a3. Well, now I just move my bishop away from e8, try to get both
maybe
rooks
you
to the
go
a
for
file.
your idea.
And maybe
bishop a4.
Maybe bishop a4 right away.
Right.
Although I'm worried about bishop takes c5 as that removes the guard.
This is crazy, and this may be our last opportunity to take a quick break before time pressure fully ensues. So we're going to do that because after rook a8, Fabiano only has 13 minutes to play his final 9 moves of this time control, and it may be the most critical 9 moves of his career, if we're totally honest. So don't go anywhere. Game 12 coverage will be right back. And we don't have a move just yet, which gives us another moment to just, again, pause 10 seconds for station identification. Thank you, everyone, for being here as we try to keep Robert's eyes on the prize, all of you, and not bagels. But want to give a shout-out to just everybody that's here with us, all of our subscribers, all of our premium members at Chess.com, all the viewers and followers. We crossed 100,000 followers today, so if you're viewing this channel for the first time, click that follow button before you go anywhere, because the chess hype is real. And all of our mods who we haven't had a chance to thank yet today. ChessBay94, right there at the top leading the way. We have Mana4, Coffee and Tea. Love you guys, Coffee and Tea, BJH13, in the nick of time, in the time of Nick. I don't even know what it is. DJ Chess Dog, wicka, DJ Chess Dog, Frank Rutten, Andy, Goon Recruiter, and NJ Greg with you guys. These shows happen, and everybody that's helping to moderate the Chess TV chat as well. WISC Mike, I see you over there. So let's get back into this game, though we haven't had a move, so relax. You haven't missed anything. But we are going to be in for an exciting finish here, Robert.
Yeah, and if Fabiano is still thinking, he doesn't have too much time to think for the remaining moves after this one.
Certainly doesn't.
And you know he's considering the wrench rook lift. Oh,
Did somebody call? All right. Ring, ring. Is that Destiny? I've been waiting for your call. Here we go. The rook lift is coming.
Wrong number, sorry, hanging out.
Destiny, I've been expecting you.
So
I actually think this is a legit thing to worry about, and with only 7 minutes,
wait. We're being told it's a draw?
No.
What? You just heard me raise my voice.
What?
Are you kidding me? That's what I'm being told by Mike Klein. And it's 30.
Why?
What? Are you kidding me?
He offered a draw. Magnus offered a draw because he was better.
Are you?
Why?
Are you serious? You're kidding me, right?
I don't see the result updated yet, so I'm hoping Mike is pulling the most epic troll prank of all time, and that he is on site. That's FIDE Master Mike Klein in London, one of our
I'm
journalists.
so mad at you, Mike. You ruined my day.
Maybe he's trolling us.
No, I think he's serious.
No, it's not a draw yet until I see it.
Everyone is saying
Don't move until you see it.
Are you kidding me? Can I have the bagel now?
Don't you touch the bagel until we're off. Okay, first of all, my initial instinct is that if chess karma is real, then maybe Magnus is going to regret this, because if he believes that much in his tiebreak chances that he's not willing to push on a position where everybody has said he's the one playing for 2 results here, Robert, I can't not but openly say I hope he at least gets in trouble. By the way, if you're upset at Magnus or Fabiano, you should let them know, because guess who was lined up to join us in the next 30 seconds? Hikaru Nakamura. Maybe we'll bring on Hikaru anyway. Because you know what? We still have 56,000 of you, and none of you want to go anywhere. We know it. We love Hikaru. We want him on the show, even if they did get in the game.
I'm so upset
I still don't see the result yet.
You know what? This is a bad thing for chess. You know why? Because even in sports where you can make a tie, I know you're doing the Hikaru, but listen to me for a second.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Even in sports where you can make a tie,
yeah,
you have to play it out till its conclusion.
Yep.
You cannot just throw out your hand and say, let's make a draw here. And I understand why Magnus did it, right? It's like parking in the bus and being like...
I don't agree that he should have done it.
I didn't say I agree. I said I understand why he did it.
Okay.
And he thinks he's the heavy favorite in Rapid, which he is. He's also, to me, outplayed Fabiano throughout this match. Yes, there was that middle section where Fabiano got some advantages. I can't dismiss that. But the beginning of the match, it looked like Magnus was the stronger player. The end of the match, it looks like Magnus is the stronger player. So he may be building that confidence, saying, this position's not so clear. Let me go into the Rapid.
But you don't get opportunities like this.
That said, I hate it. I hate it. To extend your hand to make it a draw. Firstly, it's the first time in World Championship history there have been no decisive games in the classical format. First time. And that's not fame, but infamy. Right? That's not a...
It will be remembered, for sure. Right? Remember the Titans, remember the draw.
And remember the Alamo.
Queens.
No.
Where's Denzel when you need him, by the way? That's another question. Speaking of which, Denzel's last 2 movies, The Equalizer, Equalizer 2. Yeah, we're getting a lot of equal chess here.
Yeah.
A lot of draws. So.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
I didn't even know where I was going either, but I saved myself full circle.
I was upset because
reference.
I'm not a huge fan of those movies. And early Denzel, let's throw it back. Denzel is great.
I still don't believe you. Is it an official draw?
That's what I'm being told. No moves have been played. It's official draw.
Why?
Everyone has been saying.
Why is it a draw?
Don't ask me questions I don't have the answer to.
I'm gonna.
I need to breathe.
Yeah, you do need to breathe.
Can I eat the bagel?
You can have the bagel now. Have it on air. Eat your feelings so that everyone can see you eating your feelings. That's Robert eating his feelings on camera. This is 20 years from now. A Robert who's regretting having eaten his feelings is really mad at Magnus for that. Here's the thing. Not only do we, I'll have one in a second, but not only do we disagree with Magnus's decision here to take the draw, but also just from the chess perspective of you get opportunities and then you're supposed to take what's given to you, right? Because regardless of how you feel about your chance in the tiebreak, regardless how you feel about, maybe momentum favoring you, the truth is, look at the clock. Black has a huge advantage on the board and on time and an opportunity to put your opponent in a position to blunder under time pressure. That's how championships are won. So, and I haven't had to say this for a while, but let's remind ourselves of something about the Caruana-Carlsen match where you and I were both critical at the time of Magnus maybe having too much of a match strategy. Now, Magnus went on to win in tiebreak, okay? So, hindsight's 2020. Team Magnus, I guess, is happy with how that went. But you can't not say that this may be a huge regret if the fact that you didn't put Fabiano in a position where he's clearly worse, under time pressure, with 9 moves to make with 7 minutes to go.
Yeah,
it's a practical blunder.
He has no time for these remaining moves, and in fact, it's a position where if White is not careful, it's what Ifan has said in many different games. You lose the thread, you start making aimless moves, and then you're just lost.
And now we're headed for that. We're headed for the rapid, the format you see in front of you. A lot of you are going to be wondering, well, what's next? What's next is Wednesday, November 28th, with tie breaks, and that'll be the format you see right in front of you. 25 minutes with a 10-second increment, best of 4. And I'm absolutely shocked that we're even talking about that at this point. I expected that we might get there at the beginning of this day and thought we might eventually get there if Fabiano defended himself really, really well. He would have had to defend himself. But now we're headed there, and I'm going to go...
Can we give neither of them the World Championship title? Can we just give it to somebody else? Or just
put
it up for grabs and have
That's
a
how
different
we feel right now. And I know that we'll probably get criticism for saying that, but this is just surprising.
I'm angry. No, I'm really upset about this. And this is, as a lifetime chess player, as someone, who just loves chess.
Did they forget to put the kings on the board again? By the way, this happened in like game 9 or something. If those of you are wondering why hasn't it been updated on the live server, it's not our fault. Not a Chess.com tech issue. This happened because apparently the arbiter forgot to set the board results, so the game just kept going. And I'm wondering if that's what happened again, because we still don't have.
I'm so mad.
The official feed on nobody's site we're checking has been updated, but apparently we are being told by everyone on site that they are headed to the press conference. So,
but how do you do this?
I don't know.
Do
you want a hug?
No,
Okay.
I'm really mad though.
I can help you.
I'm really upset.
I'd rather you hug me than eat your feelings.
No, from.
Hey, Robert.
What?
Robert.
What?
It's not your fault.
No, but the thing is, look, everyone's been. It's not just. Get off me. From a fan perspective, right? You've been waiting for this match for a long time. It's the number 1 versus number 2 player. You're in the heat of the battle, and I understand it's easy for me to sit here and say, play on, you're better. I don't have any nerves going on this. I'm just talking about chess. I'm happy.
Right.
I have a bagel in front of me.
Right.
I have you
have
next
a great
to me.
Partner. Yep,
exactly. Right? We got everything going for us.
Right.
But I'm just livid with the fact that in a position like this where you're better, and if Magnus says otherwise, I don't believe him. He knows he's better in this position. In another tournament, he would play on. But now it's the World Championship. He's a little bit nervous. He's got more.
He would play on and win this game.
Yes,
75% of the time. I mean, that's what it seems like. Vintage Magnus would have. And I believe that when we were critical of him in his match with Karyakin for not doing that sometimes with Black, we were right to be so. And Magnus himself has said as he wishes he was himself from 3 or 4 years ago. I'm puzzled.
So,
we may get Hikaru Nakamura on the show.
I hope we get him.
Don't go anywhere.
I want to get mad with Hikaru. I'm going to message him.
If we can get him on the show, we will not let this party end for all of you. The players may not have brought you what you wanted, but Chess.com will. We're going to do this. We are on it for you. Get Hikaru on the line. I want Holyfield, Taj Mahal.
I hit up.
Bring it on.
I said to Hikaru, "Come on now, I'm mad."
Yeah, come on now, I'm mad.
I don't think he
let your Naka emotes spam. Bring it out.
Hikaru's gonna get on and be like, "I'm disgusted. I can't believe this."
Yeah.
In a position like this, I play with this with Black in my sleep. Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, where are you, Hikaru? I'm gonna spam you.
We want Hikaru. Anyway, let's remind everybody of the schedule though, real quick, while we have you and we wait to figure out exactly where the direction of this show is going. Our full schedule can be found, by the way, you can always see the chess schedule at chess.com/TV. For those of you who may be on Twitch, you can follow the world's biggest, most happening chess portal, going pretty much all the time. So go to Chess.com and sign up if you haven't. Make sure you give us a big follow before you go anywhere. But there you have it. Wednesday, November 28th is when Robin and I will be back. We will have tie breaks, which means we have at least 4 games of Rapid ahead of us, because you can't win in 3, even if you're up 2-0. Actually, you can win in 3. Oh, wait. Okay, so you can't win in 3. Sorry, you could clean sweep or go 2.5 out of 4, but likely not.
Here comes Hikaru, I think.
Hikaru is coming. He's coming.
And
So
speaking
we're
of
gonna
Hikaru,
wait.
it's SEC, right?
SEC. In fact, we should remind everybody that, as Levon Aronian said when we asked him what we could expect in his match versus Hikaru Nakamura, if you missed it, it was a brilliant one-liner. Levon said, "I promise you there won't be 11 draws in a row." I think he's right. So we have Wesley So and Jan-Christoph Duda starting the party on November 30th at 10 a.m. Pacific. Then after that, we will actually have the Nakamura-Aronian match. But make sure you are clearing your weekend, because when the World Championship is over on Wednesday, no matter what, it will be over on Wednesday. We will have the Speed Chess Championship Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm not showing up on Wednesday. I refuse.
Yeah, you are. You are showing up.
I'm not
on
showing
Wednesday.
up. I'm out.
Yeah, but no, but it was great when Levon was here earlier.
Well,
talking about his match for Hikaru.
I wish we could bring Levon back on right now, because he would not be happy with this. I mean, he would understand it from an elite player perspective of, we're getting into the tie breaks, Magnus is the favorite, blah, blah. It's played out. I'm tired of it. I'm really upset.
Well, I think Levon's right. We won't see 11 draws in a row when he takes on Hikaru on Saturday. I don't think we'll see 11 draws in a row, let alone 12. I forgot. We're talking about 12 now. We won't see 12 draws in a row. Dwas. Whiskawilly Wabbits. Let's remind everybody else that because we're going to have Rapid on Wednesday, the world's biggest and most popular Rapid format, maybe in the history of chess, is the Pro Chess League. The third season starts on January 8th, 2019. As you can see, these are the teams that will be throwing down, 32 of them from around the globe, trying to take home Pro Chess League glory. Hikaru Nakamura, one of those players who competes for the Seattle Sluggers. Of course, we also have the 2 players in the World Chess Championship competing in the Pro Chess League. Fabiano Caruana plays for the St. Louis Archbishops, along with Wesley So, who will be playing on Friday. And Magnus Carlsen leads the way for the Gnomes. Magnus, a big fan of the Pro Chess League, has enjoyed the format, and we love having him playing it. So, Robert, as we sit here and wait for Hikaru, I'm still just shocked.
Hikaru, get on here.
I would rather Fabiano have lost on time, as the relay says. Again, blame the arbiters. Could they at least just like give us clarity? Because it only kept me guessing. Not that I didn't believe Mike, but I was very upset, and I wanted to not believe it. I wanted to believe that Mike was trolling us. I wanted to believe in you. Sorry, I don't know. I just won't touch you when you're this mad. Okay. Don't bite me. Don't eat me. Eat your feelings. Bite that bagel.
No.
Bite the bagel.
No.
All right. So what are we going to
Hikaru.
do in Hikaru's here? We're going to go over the game quickly. We're going to get Hikaru's feelings on what's going on. We will also have for you, don't go in it, we will have for you the colors. We will know what, I believe we'll find out before the show's over.
ChessBase says they're drawing colors right now.
They're drawing colors right now.
I don't care
So,
anymore.
if anybody is going to tell us their real feelings about this, it's probably Hikaru Nakamura. He's always watching.
He's
always
coming.
waiting.
He says he's here.
He's here. And here we go. Let's bring him on.
I can't wait for this. Because, you know what? Hikaru and I are going to be in complete agreement.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah.
Which is great. Yeah, I need another cough drop.
I need to breathe more.
You do need to breathe.
I'm really upset. People have told me that when I get angry, I'm like anger and inside out. I talked to you about this the other day. I need like fire coming from my hair. And
Yep.
so
well, just honestly, just jokes aside and your anger aside, and obviously we'll have rapid tie breaks, which I'm not that surprised about. Just the fact that we got here this way is just shocking. And we are ready for Ricard to join us as soon as he is ready. But if you are just tuning in, Game 12 has indeed been ended in a shake of hands, peacefully offered by the world champion here after Rook A8, despite being clearly better on the board. A plan that we were just highlighting that seems very dangerous. and a lot of time pressure for the challenger. Fabiano only had 7 minutes, at least as far as the relay told us when this move was started. So shocking that Magnus would believe he is that big of a favorite in the tiebreak. And you know what? That's what he just told Fabiano. He just said, like, literally, I believe I'm that much better than you at Rapid that I'm not even going to try to win a position. I'm the only one who can win as black. So I guess there's that as like a storyline to consider in the Rapid. I mean, that's a message.
Hikaru? Want Hikaru to join us? Nope. Hikaru's not here yet.
So apparently he is here.
Hikaru, can we do a quick sound test so we can get
Sure,
him on?
yeah. Can you hear me? Am I
Hikaru's
good?
already live.
You're
I
live.
think we're having a sound test.
Loud and clear.
No sound
can
test.
you
We got
mute yourself,
Hikaru.
please?
We're ready to
Yeah,
rock,
that's-
Simon.
Hey, Simon, stop talking, please.
What?
Hey, give Simon some love. He's working hard behind the scenes. Simon,
But
thanks
he's in
for all
my
the work
ear,
you-
and I just want to talk to Hikaru, and I'm mad.
Simon, say hi to everybody before you go. We love you, buddy.
Hello,
Hikaru.
everyone. Bye, everyone.
He knows how to cheer me up. Just the guy.
Hikaru,
Hikaru, how you found?
can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. I'm good.
All right, dude. Hey, I know you're really excited about what Fighting Spirit was just showed here. So, right?
I'm confused. I'm confused actually. Wait. Was this just drawn? Am I losing my mind?
Magnus offered a draw after Rook A8, despite being clearly better, and Fabiano about to get into some insane time pressure.
What?
I know, right? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand this because actually what I was going to say is, I was looking earlier and I saw this. I think the computer said EF4 and B5 was good. I thought B5 was good also. I mean, I thought it was very timid by Magnus not to go B5, not to really try and press. And I mean, okay, obviously it's the last game. The nerves are insane. But I felt like he didn't do this, but the position was such that it's still very favorable because he can just keep on pressing forever and ever and ever.
Hikaru, I'm inviting you to the board so you can show us B5.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I mean, sorry, guys. I mean, I jumped in the shower because I saw that the game is going. I'm like, okay, I'll come back in 20 minutes, join you guys, and we'll see the final push to move 40.
Don't worry about it. Not your fault. There we go. Now we have you.
You missed my
Yeah,
tantrum.
so let me go back. So yeah, first of all, I mean, okay, I thought Fabiano, considering he got surprised, I thought what he did was very logical, putting the knight on E4, bishop D3. I liked all this. I thought, I mean, rook H2 I thought was a little bit unusual. It's completely fine, very logical move, put the rook on C2, castle long. Completely fine. I mean, I totally get it. So I mean, this all looked normal. And then like around this time, somewhere around here, I went out to eat brunch, and I saw F5, and I saw the knight go to F2. And the moment I saw the knight on F2, I'm like, uh-oh, it's going to get really bad. Fabiano's probably going to lose. Because I thought the whole point was on F5, you always could go knight G5. Now, I guess in this position, the computers didn't really love knight G5. I didn't look at it closely, so I'm not sure what they saw or even what Magnus saw. But it just
Levon was here, and he actually had a line where if the knight goes to G5, you take with the bishop, play
Right,
knight
bishop
C5 with tempo, and then F4 likely comes.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's not. I mean, I know it's not correct. So I briefly glanced at the computer, so that makes sense. But yeah, once I saw knight F2, I'm like, uh-oh, this is going to get really bad, really fast, and time pressure is going to eventually be looming. So Fabiano played F4, and yeah, this was a position where I thought B5 was the best move. I think you guys even mentioned on
We're so glad you're saying that because we didn't have the engine or you with us at the time, or we were all alone. We didn't have Levon or another Super Grandmaster, and we were like, how is B5 not the move here?
Yeah, I mean, mainly because I think it's just A5. I mean, the point is, let's just say white plays king B1. Obviously, you can't take. This takes, and there's checkmate on C2. Like on king B1, I think the point is A5, so queen B5, you have bishop E8, trapping the queen, puzzle rush tactic number 1. So, I mean, I think that was the main thing is like basically if you, like, let's just say you play normal moves and you get this position, I think it's close to winning because you're just going to go bishop F6, rook E8, and at some point pop a knight on E4, take, maybe go A4, A3, open the long diagonal, a bunch of stuff that's very good. And I think Magnus had a lot of time here and he just played A5 very quickly, which really kind of surprised me. It's completely fine. But again, when you play A5, it's because you're going for exactly what happened in the game where you just want the slow grind, put the rook on A8, go like rook A6, rook B6, just, make the game go forever and win. I mean, that's kind of what I was expecting. So I was expecting like either Fabiano would crack and blunder in time pressure or this game would go like 7 hours. So I'm very shocked by Magnus's decision. I mean, I've said before that I think Magnus should win in a rapid tiebreak. But it seems like every time you get into a critical game, of any match now that I think about it that has a lot of hype. Something bad happened in the last game, and like when I say that, I'm specifically thinking of this. There was this Kasparov Deep Junior match that was played in New York. I think it was on ESPN actually, like 2003, 2004. Forget the year. And basically, it was the last game. I think Gary, did he actually sack the exchange? It was some kind of queenless Najdorf. And I don't remember if he actually sacked an exchange or not, but I think he sacked an exchange and it was drawn like 2 moves later. And it feels kind of like this is the same sort of thing where basically like it's getting really interesting and then boom, it's a draw. And I mean, it's tough for me to judge. Maybe Magnus thought it's only slightly better, and he didn't want to risk it. But I mean, one of the things that has made Magnus so strong is that he always presses to the end. He always looks for his little like slight inaccuracies, or he plays for everything that's left in the position. And so to basically offer a draw and take a draw here, I mean, if he wins the tiebreak, then I mean, no one can really fault him. But I will say at the same time, if Fabiano can win now in a rapid tiebreak, I mean, then really there's no reason to not say that Magnus is not the best player in the world anymore. Because I mean, this is just, I mean, I would not take a draw here because, I mean, you know, there's one other thing I noticed in the match that Fabiano, when he got these positions where he was better, but it's technically where it was technically drawn, he was not pressing. Like he got the 3 versus 2 in game 10, I think it was on the King's side, and just quick draw. I mean, they didn't play on for another hour, whereas Magnus would have, and he did in a couple other games where he had even less than that. I mean, I'm shocked that Magnus took a draw. I mean, maybe he figures he's that big of a favorite in the rapid, but I mean, he's still the favorite, but in rapid where you can prepare for one opponent, I mean, I feel like it's going to be interesting. So I have a feeling in rapid, if Magnus plays the Sveshnikov Pelican, that something bad could happen, because I feel like if Fabiano comes with a nice little idea and basically just sort of it's something Magnus isn't ready for, it could be a lot harder to solve it in rapid than it would be in classical. And then secondly, I mean, I guess the other thing is what Magnus is going to do as well, because I mean, he hasn't really gotten much at all. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, yeah, and well said. Sorry, we both have a number. You go first. I know you've been waiting for Hikaru.
Yeah, I have been. I've been sliding into Hikaru's DMs being like, I'm mad, get online right now. I'm # mad online. But Hikaru, so it's Fabiano's move in the position that they agree to a draw. What move would you even play as white here?
Well, I mean, I assume Queen A3 is the only move, right?
Yeah,
I assume Black's threatening like A3 and Bishop A4 or something on the diagonal.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's show that line, because let's say
Knight H3 or something.
Let's say some random
I mean, the only moves that I would consider here as white are Queen A3 or Bishop D4, maybe.
Right.
Those are the only 2 moves that make much sense to me.
But because we have you, Hikaru, let's show how Black wins on a random move. You highlighted A3, B3, and then are we playing Rook A6 first or just Bishop A4?
Right, so what's the move, Knight H3 here or Bishop D4?
Knight H3.
Whatever, I was just trying to show how dangerous Black's attack is.
I don't know, do you have like Knight A4 or something? Or I mean, I'm sure there's something. Rook A6 looks like the simple. If this was just blitz, I would play Rook A6 probably. And then Bishop D7 and then Rook A8 and Rook B6. And
it's a free attack.
I mean,
it's a free attack.
Here there might even be like Knight B3 maybe and Bishop A4 at the end, because you can't take with the pawns at A2. You get mated.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But actually, Rook A6 looks best because now like Knight B3 is a huge threat. And I think White's probably just much worse if not lost.
So that means White has to play Queen A3, and then you can go ahead and move the black piece if you want. What do you think, Magnus?
Yeah, sure. So after Queen A3, probably like Rook A6 would be my guess. I don't know, maybe like Rook D2, Bishop D7. I mean, it's very unpleasant for White to play here. Maybe Knight D1. But actually, Knight D1 does Knight D1 run into Knight D1? I think runs into Knight B3. Because your Rook's trapped, so you have to take, and after takes. I think Rook A8. Ooh, this is really ugly.
Rook A8 even better. Yeah, wow.
Like just as an example, Rook C1, Rook A1, King A2, Bishop A4, GG.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
this position would have been so hard for Fabiano to defend under time pressure. I'm just perplexed. At least play it till move 40, right?
You can never lose.
Why do it now? Why not play it out till time control?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder if Magnus isn't losing his edge slightly because again, this is pure Magnus. This is the position that he plays to the end, and he's going to win it. I mean, I don't know why he didn't do this. I would expect him to win this position. I mean, Fabiano had what, like 7 minutes or something?
10 minutes, 9 minutes, I don't know. Something.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard because why does define an idea? Like, you don't even have concrete. You don't have like a position where you can just make like 2 or 3 moves right away. Every move has to be good here. In order to just not lose. And so, yeah, I mean, I would expect Magnus to win this probably 80% of the time, I think. You know, if you put Magnus
I said 75 before you got here, but I agree.
Okay, 80, 75. But I mean, it's a huge percentage, relatively speaking.
And there's no risk.
Just no risk whatsoever. I mean, all I can say is, I mean, for Magnus, if it works out, it'll be good.
I guess if
Magnus doesn't win tomorrow, he 100%. Or if he doesn't win the tiebreak, it's Fabiano 100% deserves to win the match.
To put this in perspective for everyone watching, I would never take a draw with the black side of this position against Magnus Carlsen. Never.
Right.
If he offered me a draw, I would say no. I can never lose this. I just make moves. I mean, what's the harm?
Well, okay. Well, we'll test that. Maybe we'll play a 10-game match in this position. Then. We'll
I'm not saying I wouldn't lose. I'm just saying I would never accept a draw.
Yeah, no. I mean, I get it. It's just Yeah, I mean, like if Fabiano had half an hour here, I mean, I still don't think it's a great idea to take a draw, but I mean, I could understand it more because maybe Fabiano has time to get the knight to c3 or he comes up with some defensive resource.
Hikaru, we've just been given word confirmation that Magnus will have white in the first game of the tiebreaker. So before, obviously, we're all going to end this show in a surprise fashion because none of us thought we'd be ending it so quickly. But what are your
question, Danny? What is it? Is it 4 games or is it 2 games?
It's 4 games of 25 minutes plus 10-second increment.
Okay, so it's not like the World Cup where you're eliminated after 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with Magnus getting white, what are your thoughts on the? I mean, I know you've said Magnus is the favorite, but again, you're sending a huge psychological message that you believe you're that much better than Fabiano if you're giving him a draw in this position. What do you think he's going to do with the white pieces in game 1?
I am going to guess that Magnus will come with some sort of. He's going to play the English, is my guess. I don't think he wants to risk getting surprised in the Queen's Gambit declined. I mean, there's obviously Fabiano might play the Rook D8 again. There's always Rook E8, which I pretty much pioneered. I think there are too many chances to be surprised in the Queen's Gambit decline. So I expect him to play in English. Petrov, he's gotten nowhere. I don't think the Petrov is. It's not an easy position to play if your opponent's well prepared. The ideas have to be pretty deep. And so in Rapid, I think you're going to use a lot of time to get there. So I expect something in English. That's my best guess. But again, the colors are not favoring Magnus. Getting black in game 12, he's going to have black in game 4 of the Rapid tomorrow. So it's going to be very interesting. I mean, I still expect Magnus to win, but I mean, to not try today is really a bit of a sin, actually.
Yeah.
I have another question, Hikaru. I mean, based on the 12 games we've seen in classical chess, and this game in particular, just to reference, game 12 here, it seemed like Magnus outplayed Fabiano with relative ease in this particular game. And it's been a bit back and forth. The start of the match looked pretty good for Magnus. The middle of the match looked very good for Fabiano. The end of the match, once again, looked good for Magnus. So do you think, first question, who do you think has had the better match and who's played better? And 2, do you think Magnus may have just confidence rolling forward into the Rapid because he sort of outplayed Fabiano in this last stretch of the match?
Well, I mean, I think Magnus played great in game 1. He should have won game 1. When he didn't win game 1, that changed the whole trend. So he should have won game 1. Today, he had another great opportunity. I mean, I would say outside of game 1 and game 12, Fabiano was by far and away the better player. I don't think that's even a question because when you look at those middle games, like the one that Fabiano didn't win with where he was up the piece, that crazy end game, which was with that
Petrov,
ridiculous mate. No, I mean the one where the Petrov, right, where he there was that crazy mate in 36 or whatever.
Right.
Like Magnus should have been able to just make a draw and kill it, and then he kind of really drifted there, and he should have lost. So outside of games 1 and 12, Fabiano has been much better, and I think actually for Magnus, I don't know, maybe he didn't realize how much better it is, but I think when he goes and actually looks with CES or Stockfish, whichever engine he's using, and he sees there was basically like, I think it was like -1 or something on CES. that basically he's not going to be feeling confident. And I think, I mean, even if he outplayed Fabiano, the fact that he had a much better position and didn't really just didn't press it to the end tells me that he might even be losing confidence. So I don't think there's any confidence.
Hikaru, does that shake your confidence when you start realizing, like, man, I'm just not evaluating things well? I didn't even realize I was that much better. Does that bother you when you just start realizing you're not seeing the positions at the level you normally do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is a closed position, so computers are very good at understanding long term. But yeah, I think when Magnus sees and he well, I mean, I'm sure he already knows by now, but I think when he sees that it's going to be very disturbing for him. I think he's going to be really upset, actually. So again, it's Magnus. He gets over things pretty quickly, generally speaking, which is probably one of his strongest traits. But still, yeah, to not press this, I mean, it's it's tough. And also 12 draws. I mean, no one wanted to see 12 draws.
Well, Hikaru, are you playing Arena Kings here in 30 minutes?
I didn't know Arena. I was going to stream regardless, actually, starting as soon as the broadcast ended. Like, I thought I was going to have to wait like another 4 hours to stream, but but it's pretty good, so I can just start streaming right away. Yeah, I think I will play Arena Kings.
Well, that's a shout out to everybody that's here, all 44,000 of you that are still with us. Go to twitch.tv/GMHikaru and follow his channel. One of the fastest growing channels on Twitch right now, honestly, not even just in the chess community. So, Hikaru, you've been crushing it. This has been amazing to have you, and all the times you've been willing to join us during the match. And honestly, will you plan on being a guest on Wednesday? We have Levon lined up. He said he'd join us, but I'd love to have you maybe at some point for maybe one of the later games too. We can check in with you then.
Sure, yeah, why not? I can show up for a game, absolutely.
Sure. Well, thanks for keeping it real and being awesome. Everybody, go follow Hikaru's channel, seriously. And if you haven't followed ours, go ahead and do it while you're here. We're going to let you go, Hikaru, so you can get ready for Arena Kings. I'm going to go stop Robert from eating his feelings.
Feelings are his bagels.
His bagels, yeah. Well, bagels representing his feelings right now. But all right, man. Oh, it's just okay. Good talk. Well, this is not how I thought this day would go, but there you have it, everybody.
I mean, I'm still really upset. Hikaru lightened the mood a lot. He also bullied me, so I appreciate that. You and Levon both really roasted me today. He's like, "Oh, you want to do a 10-game match?"
Hikaru would beat me 10-0 in this position, so at least you might get a game. All right. Anyway, Hikaru, thanks so much, dude.
All right. Okay.
Really appreciate
it. See you guys on Wednesday.
All right, man. See you.
See you, Hikaru.
Okay.
All right, well, before we let you go, everybody, let's remind you of the schedule once again. We will be back on Wednesday, November 28th, for the tiebreak. So regardless of how we got there, after a day to recover, a day for us to emotionally gather ourselves, I guess from the fans' perspective, from the broadcast point of view, we do get another day of fun together. So all of you that are here, thanks for being here. We will see you on Wednesday for sure. Let's remind you of what you'll be viewing then. It is, of course, 12. The 12 games are over, so we now have 4 games of Rapid. 25 minutes plus 10-second increment. If it's still tied after that, we'll actually have 5 minutes plus 3-second increment. So who knows? Maybe this match is going to turn out to be one of those kind of affairs that just the gift that keeps on giving, at least from the perspective of getting more chess, Robert.
And I have to read one quote from the press conference I just read, which makes me like Magnus again. So he was asked about his +2 advantage if he played b5. His response, "I don't care." So I love that. It made me smile. He
doesn't have a choice but to have that attitude, and frankly,
it just
if he ends up losing the tiebreak, he may care.
But it goes to show that he just wanted to get to the tiebreak with the black pieces
It does show that he had a match strategy, so if indeed he goes on to win, then hats off, and we will all bow down once again. I want to remind everybody that you can follow me and Robert on Twitter. Please do that. You can get involved with the hashtag Carlsen Caruana, the hashtag ChessTV for our daily questions. Now we got to come up with a daily question for the tiebreak, by the way. Right? Let's remind everybody of the content they can get, though, on the rest day before we go. Let's do that. We want to make sure that we've got you covered as far as what you can expect. Tomorrow will be a rest day recap show. I believe we have International Master John Bartholomew back.
I think we do. I think you're right.
We also have videos on Chess.com by Yasser Sarawan, and of course, content by Yermolinsky. So let's take you through that one more time because you'll all be itching for chess. Make sure you follow John's channel and watch his recap show tomorrow. Grandmaster Yasser Sarawan breaking things down for Chess.com premium members. Never a better time than now to subscribe and go diamond. And Grandmaster Alex Yermolinsky will probably have a video up by the time this show is over because we've dragged it out so long. Thank you to Alex for that. Last thing I want to say before you go, everyone keeps mentioning this whole Puzzle Rush thing. There's now Puzzle Rush on iOS, which is my preferred method of playing. Love using my thumbs. So if you do have our apps, you now can play Puzzle Rush on iOS. So make sure you update that Chess.com app if you don't have it on an auto-update system. So, Robert, it's all going to be okay. It's not your fault, Will Hunting. We'll hug it out later. I know you don't like a public affection on camera, so we'll do it later. But thank you for being here, everybody. Stay tuned. Follow our channel. We will be back on Wednesday for tie breaks, whether we plan to get there or not. And we'll see you then.